Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto almost kills Kakashi during Bell Test Part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for Part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. It's been 13 years. 13 years since the dreaded QB incident that struck the village. The force of nature itself, the colossal nine-tailed fox regarded as a demon, struck a major blow to the village's military might as they suffered many casualties from it, but none hit them harder than the death of their strongest shinobi, and Yondaime Hokage Namikaze Minato. But in its place the village might have gained something or someone far greater. And that something that was far greater was in the hands of one Shimura Danzo. The old warhawk stood on the opposite side of a glass window looking into an all-white room. In the center of the room there was a pit filled with metal spikes, and dangling above it was a motionless figure completely hidden in a full-body straitjacket if not for the strands of golden locks that poked through the head wrappings. Two nondescript root shinobi entered into the white chamber, situating themselves on top of the spikes, fingering their tantos at the ready. Naruto almost kills Kakashi during Bell Test. Danzo nodded to the loyal shinobi before approaching the mic. We will be starting test 123 of the container's advancement. The seconds ticked by as if the drones were waiting for something to happen. Seeing that there was no change, they pointed their swords at the dangling individual. They were ordered to kill their target to the best of their ability, so that's the order they would carry out. Both leaped from the spikes they stood upon at a speed only a ninja could have and held their swords to sever the figure where the midsection would be. They reached the figure almost instantly at that range. The moment their blades were within inches of the individual's body, it was like time slowed down as the figure's eyes snapped open through the bandages. Everything changed from what was expected by most at that moment. There was the sounds of various noises, screams, metal clashing, and finally crunching noise. All the while Danzo watched expressionless, though his eyes started to twitch, flinching when the window suddenly became coated in a spray of red from the bodily fluids of one of the unfortunate soldiers, or maybe even both of them. Another failure. Crash! One of the large metal spikes broke through the window and traveled to embed itself in the wall behind Danzo. Danzo Ajizan, that's not very nice. You started another test while I was sleeping. The boy was sitting up on the side of the metal spike with his body still restrained except for his legs. The shocking detail would be those blue eyes of his that had a glow about them that betrayed the boy's innocent demeanor. The other shocking detail would be that not a speck of blood could be seen upon the boy's body, yet inside the room was a massacre that only took less than a minute to be created. Uzumaki Danzo uttered unreadably while his other root agents just stood at attention, while a few kept their eye on the boy. Uzumaki Naruto was the boy's name. He was 13 years old and had been working with Danzo since he was 7. The boy should have been a mindless weapon of his, but he was just too willful and unpredictable, along with the fact they had a certain agreement in place. 6 years ago. Are you here to help me or hurt me like everyone else? Danzo stood in front of a small boy who was dressed in nothing but rags and was holding a bloodied metal rod of sorts. He was covered in a few cuts and bruises along his arms and cheek, however one would say he came off lucky. There were a few civilians around him and a couple shinobi, and none were still breathing, some not even in one piece anymore. The boy looked tired and looked to have a wild look in his big yet exhausted blue eyes. The boy, despite the situation, gave off so much life that it was both eerie and inspiring. I mean you no harm, boy. I simply wish to make you strong so that you need not fear what might happen in your lonely nights. The boy twitched and gained a look of hope for long enough for Danzo to catch. Long enough so that he could see it shift into a level of defensiveness as the boy's pupils turned into slits, and his hair blew wildly. I'd been on my own long enough and betrayed enough to know when someone wants to use me. The ground under him started to shake and crack as small tremors were sent through them from the one hand he had flat to the ground. Danzo looked unperturbed despite being slightly unnerved by the boy and his overly aware response in general. I won't like, as it is indeed my intention to turn you into a weapon. The old man said that I should forgive everyone even after what they've done to me. Everyone has it out for me, and I feel like it has something to do with this. The boy pulled his shirt up and showed a seal show up on his stomach, though it was fuzzy and flickered in and out like static, oddly enough. Danzo's eyes widened slightly at seeing the boy even away of the seal. The boy grinned widely at seeing the man surprised. I'm a kid, but I'm not stupid. You were on the old man's old team, right? You know what this seal is all about, don't you? Is that why you are here? You come at a moment when I'm weak to give me an off? You probably also waited till I should enough promise? Danzo started to discreetly pump chakra into his other eye in preparation. This boy was too smart for his own good. There was no way he would be able to harmlessly convince the child this time. The boy stood straight and pointed the rod dead at Danzo. Hold on, you don't have to use any jutsu on me, you haven't even heard my answer yet. Danzo almost visibly stumbled at getting called out. He could sense my use of chakra? If he was more knowledgeable, then he might have even been able to figure out that existence of my recently acquired Sharingan. What is it, boy? He pouted at Danzo's tone. My name is Uzumaki Naruto, not Boy Datebale. I'll become this village's weapon if on the deal that you explain what this thing on my stomach is and that you give me some kind of compensation, whether it's food or money, so I can live better. Danzo thought it over, believing it was simple enough, but frowned. That's a simple trade-off, but I can just as easily destroy your mind and make you a loyal drone of mine by force. Naruto looked downtrodden hearing that before his expression showed furious backbone as he looked back up at Danzo and stood strong, sliding into a more offensive posture. Fine then, just try to control me. I promise it won't be easy for you. I'm all alone, so I have nothing left to lose. If I can't even decide my future, I might as well die now. He snarled as his fangs sharpened. Danzo couldn't believe his eyes when an almost invisible doom of energy formed around Naruto, and the traces of a chain made of chakra started to emerge out of his neck. This boy is like a caged animal, and he can even has the potential of the fabled chains of the Uzumaki apparently? Investing in this boy could definitely be a boon. Fair enough. Naruto blinked as he lost his threatening presence. Huh. I will give you a safe haven. But I will break you down and gauge your limits and break your body down, and if your mind breaks, you will be controlled by me. However, if you make it to graduation age, I will allow you to become a shinobi of the leaf. Of course, you will continue to attend the academy to keep Sarutobi unaware. Naruto looked at him with his big blue eyes holding traces of hope, suspicion, and loneliness. Someone was willing to work with him. Deal. Of the numerous tests, the boy passed all of them one way or another. The boy was a prodigy, and even had a semi-passive bloodline that he believed was unique to him alone, along with the Uzumaki chakra chains. A Kekai Jasho of a literally magnitude. The failure was on my part. The graduation exams are in a few days. Be sure that you attend them so that I know at least some of these efforts weren't for naught. Naruto smiled at him happily as he watched him go. He closed his eyes and let out a deep breath before cracking his neck to the side sharply, and through pure power the straitjacket was torn apart as he forced it off him with his arms and strength. This will be fun. I can be me now. The day had finally come, as it was that time of year again for the next wave of possible genin hopefuls. The classroom filled with civilian and academy students. It was a time of peace, and so there was no need for any of the students to graduate early. That could, so everyone who was in the class pretty much knew each other for at least a couple years, but in most cases much longer than that. However, because of there being no incentive to grow, this both made a clear line in the skill level between the civilian students and the clan students, but it also made the clan students not as strong as they could be because there was hardly any stress or incentive to grow. So everyone's skill progressed pretty much at steady rates that curved off in the end. Though particular students that would not apply to this would possibly be the last Uchiha Sasuke. He was one of the few that pushed himself to be better, and so grew faster than the others. However steeper this rate still became a steady one. With his drive so clouded with anger and revenge, along with the fact that he's on his own and can only teach himself so much, his potential was also stagnated. Revenge can be a powerful driving force to make one stronger, but he didn't even know who or where to direct it correctly. The rest of the actual shinobi children, it was harder to gauge their potential for the most part, as they either hadn't shown enough drive or were too socially closed off to measure. Some, however, were so socially open that it made them an eyesore. I'm sitting next to Sasuke-kun forehead. The blonde Yamanaka heir. She was a pretty one for sure and had a thing for fashion. However, though she was from a prominent clan and an heir, she couldn't be discerned much from a civilian student outside of her clan techniques. She was just too distractible and had quite the mouth on her. One could only hope that will change. Move it, Inopig. Sasuke is much better off being next to me than you. Sakura Harino, a civilian of unimportance but rendered important because of her loud-ass voice and pink hair. The other students either watched or groaned in annoyance as the two went at it again. The sound of a stack of books hitting the desk echoed through the cloud as Irika's eyebrow twitched in irritation. You two be quiet and sit down. They flinched in fear as Irika's head grew to a comically large size for a second, as if to emphasize his irritation. He looked around to see the classroom die done, and nodded with a smile, only to notice another student wasn't present. Has anyone seen Naruto? The door slid open as a figure walked in slowly. Sorry, Irika-sensei, I was running late, but then I decided to just make a belated entrance like a common cliché in other fanfiction stories. A cliché in what? Wait, Naruto? His eyes widened while most of those in the classroom did the same to varying degrees. They all knew the Naruto who wore the I'm Special 1 size 2 small orange jumpsuit that with a few changes could easily resemble a onesie a baby would wear. The one in front of them was largely different, though still had a certain oddness about him. Personality-wise, appeared much more in control of what he was doing and aware. He stood at 5'3", standing just a couple inches taller than Sasuke. His hair now went down to his jawline yet kept its characteristic spikes, now shading his eyes. Wore a high-collar orange jacket with black trim and zippers along the waist and breast. For pants he wore black jogger-type pants that narrowed at his ankles into his black shinobi sandals. Some of the girls blushed as not only did he look good in his clothes, but he actually looked a little older and a lot more attractive in general. Naruto? Yes, that's me. He closed his eyes and smiled as everyone bombarded him with questions. Why are you taller? I'm just standing straighter. Why is your face and voice a little more mature now? I'm going through puberty. Since when? Last night? Why is your hair like that? I finally washed it. But it's like several inches longer? I know, right? Naruto obliviously responded in a happy tone, causing several to grow frustrated. Seeing that they wasted enough time, Irika coughed into his hand. Alright Naruto, it's great to see you can perform the henge, that saves time. Now please go to your seat so we can get through the rest of class. He tilted his head in confusion. But Irika-sensei, this isn't a henge. He turned to the sides and a poof of smoke erupted before the old Naruto they were familiar with, who was shorter, was seen. My old appearance has been a henge for the past 6 months, I guess? 6 months? They were all shocked, and not all of them believed them. Irika believed him but was dumbfounded as to how he didn't notice. Since I'm already here, I can do the other jutsu tests as well. Naruto turned back into his current self as smoke dispersed again. He put his hands together in the ram sign and strained a bit as a vein on his temple bulged. Irika let out a breath as it looked like even with the changes Naruto's growth as a ninja hadn't really changed. Henge. Irika was pleasantly surprised when there were 4 puffs of smoke and now there were 5 Narutos standing in front of him. The forms of 4 of them wavered for a second for a reason he wasn't sure, but that quickly vanished, and they were from then on indistinguishable. Great job, Naruto. You must have worked hard before you could barely even make 1 clone, let alone the necessary 2. Naruto rubbed the back of his head and laughed as the clones dispelled, fading out of existence, getting Irika's attention again. Yeah, this is still pretty hard for me to do because of my chakra after everything I've done. What about his chakra? Not the amount of it isn't the problem. Is it the demon? Well then, the last ninjutsu for the test was the Kawarimi, right? Irika nodded and Naruto got a sneaky look in his eyes. He put his hands in his pockets and fell back. When he was at a 45 degrees angle with the ground, there was a pop of smoke and a yelp of surprise before Sasuke appeared in his place, falling to the ground. Everyone's head snapped back to see in Sasuke's seat was Naruto with his feet propped up on the desk. Chie, I figured since the best went first that Sasuke can go now. He was met with glares from a few, primarily Sasuke and Sakura, and looks of astonishment from a number of others. He struggled a bit to prefer the clone technique but still formed more than the necessary amount, and was able to perform the other 2 jutsu seamlessly. And if I looked right, then his eyes were also closed when he did the substitution, and he switched with a living body, which is a whole nother level of difficulty that many jonin can't even do. In the jutsu category alone, I think even with the 1 issue it's still worth above a perfect score. After that, the rest of the class proceeded with their own portions of the ninjutsu test, which only served to turn Naruto back into a social pariah, but in a different way. Seeing the believed dead last perform the test so easily urged the rest of the class to one-up him, only for them all to ultimately fail, creating a wave of clout to their pride and self-esteem. Though a few weren't bothered by it. The only one who was able to successfully match Naruto was Sasuke in the clone jutsu, as he was able to create the same amount, though with some slight straining for a different reason. He was able to do the other jutsu flawlessly but not without seals. But Naruto had already expected that. It did catch his eye, however, that the Hyuga heir could do a transformation without seals, and both Shino and Ino along with Sasuke were able to bring the substitution jutsu down to 1 seal, though with varying degrees of difficulty. He suspected that with Hinata's heritage that she may have been able to do the same if her self-esteem lasted enough to try, as she did it before she did the substitution. So really the only objects of potential strength he saw in the class overall were the Uchiha and the Hyuga for the specific category. Naruto held up his headband and let it dangle from his hand as he stared at it curiously, letting catch the light. He passed and was a major upset to the rest of the class. They expected he would boast and brag about it too, but what further confused some of them was the fact that he just looked on in interest, as if it didn't really matter to him either way. His grades prior were almost completely trash. In fact, he was actually failing. His performance on the tests today were the complete opposite, however. He had over a perfect score on the ninjutsu portion. He earned an above perfect score on the physical tests as well and a high grade on the written tests. He also scored perfect on the projectile test, even though he somehow accidentally threw some of the kunai were flaws and rough marks throughout all that he did, but the things he succeeded in he far outpaced the majority of the rest of the class to where it didn't even matter. Iruka was congratulating them while also reading off their team names. Naruto leaned back in his chair as he had a feeling where he would be placed based on his scores. He had been failing the class. He only passed because of his performance in the test, so he was still the dead last. Team 7 will consist of Harino Sakura, Uchiha Sasuke, and Uzumaki Naruto. You will be led by Hatake Kakashi. Oh, Kakashi? Old man talked about him a few times. He tied his headband around his neck before leaning back and going to sleep. What can I find to eat? I could get ramen or I could hunt something. Now that I'm a ninja I can do either, and what's best is I have no curfew. Too bad old man Danzo had work to do tonight. Naruto walked through the words and found a small clearing with a stone in the middle of it. Deciding to eat later, he went and sat down on the stone looking up at the night sky. This is the start of when the rest of the world knows who I am. I might not have gotten this far the way that I am if it wasn't for the old man's help. Gigi helped too, but he's always busy with his Hokage duties. I bet everyone was surprised to see how I really am. I can't wait to see their faces when they see what I can really do. He sat up and crossed his legs while holding out his palm to look at. My peers will learn one way or another of what I contain. I guess it's about time for me to finally greet my tenant. He closed his eyes and went into a meditative state while still being subconsciously aware of the life around him. Centering his mind and lowering his breathing, meditating was something he had gotten used to over the years and was something he could do with ease. He opened his eyes again to see that the scenery had changed to that over a dank and dark sewer. In front of him was a massive gate with a seal array on its lock. What it contained was pretty clear to him. Well, it was easier to get here than I thought. So my container has finally showed himself. The voice, while not projected to be loud, still reverberated through the area as a massive creature approached the gate, coming into view. It snorted when it took in the sight of Naruto. TCH, and only mildly decent. Hi there. Nice to meet you. The beast stumbled before it refocused and glared at him. Nice to meet you. Do you dare mock me? Do you know who and what I am? Naruto put his hands in his pockets and started to rock back and forth on the balls of his feet, almost like a restless child. But you are supposed to greet new people, right? That's how you make friends. Doesn't matter if you are human, animal, or demon. Raised and treated as the latter two more so than the first one, it makes no difference to me. So I say again. Nice to meet you, Kyubi. Naruto shrugged, honestly showing how little it mattered to him, though his gaze matured and sharpened when he said that last bit. The demon fox actually looked guilty for a split second before looking slightly irritated. And just why, might I ask, would I ever want to be friends with the dirty Nigen? Naruto stared at the scowling fox for several seconds. He then continued to do so for even longer, to the point that the fox actually shifted and started to feel slightly self-conscious. Why are you dash? Are you male or female or some other third thing? Some other third thing? Annoyed, the giant fox shouted at him. I am genderless. Why is that even important? I am a beast of chakra given consciousness dash. Now you're female. Wah dash. The fox's voice died as Naruto just dismissed the beast. Did you just assume my dash? Yeah, you are definitely a girl. Which is good though. With how rich and glossy your coat looks whenever you grow irritated, that shows that either that's a physical disposition, or you are covering up your appearance, which is harder to do so when you lose track of your emotions. Also, your scent is really nice and one of a female, and I mean this in a non-perverse way, but if I were a fox I'd be excited right now. I hate to say it, but you are a lot more intelligent than I expected. I get that a lot. Now then, will you answer me or not? He spoke in a serious tone again as the Kyubi sighed in defeat. I've already been sealed by a human. I suppose I don't have much more pride to lose. Its body broke apart into red yuki that swirled in a funnel kicking upwind while Naruto watched blankly. The energy condensed and packed down to coalesce into a female form. The figure was a young woman around the age of 10 with messy red hair and thick black eyelashes. Since she was of prepubescent age, her attractiveness could be described as cute more so than anything. Her nails were naturally shaped to be sharp like claws and her lips were flushed pink and pouty. She sat on her knees in a ragged, oversized white shirt to keep her modestly, as she glared up at Naruto from the other side of the gate. 2 little fox ears sprouted from her head with a matching tail. They're happy? Naruto stared at her with half-lidded eyes, showing a lack of interest which completely clashed with the fact that blood started dripping from his nose. This caused the fox girl to blush and start to scoot back defensively. Yes. Why is your nose bleeding? He wiped his nose and coughed into his hand. Sorry, lost track of myself for a second. Just so we can get this out there, you are legal, correct? I'm changing back. Wait. I'm sorry, I'll stop. Naruto tried to keep a smile off his face. He wasn't really all that sorry. But why are you a little girl? I thought you'd be older. I rarely have a need to take a humanoid form, so age takes a bit for me to get right. Most of you humans look the same to me. Good to know. Now then, how would you like to get out of here? What? Naruto's head snapped to the side for a second as his eyes narrowed and he turned serious. Hold on, I have to take care of something real quick. He vanished from the mindscape in a burst of wind, causing the small girl to cry out. Wait, you can't just say that then leave. Naruto opened his eyes as a figure jumped out of the trees to land in front of him. From their breathing he could tell they had been traveling a bit. Seeing the white-haired Chunin, Naruto looked on confused as they tried poorly to hide their contempt for him. Mizuki-sensei? Demo, I mean Uzumaki-san, what are you doing out here? I always wander the forests here. I feel at home in nature, especially since I never really felt at home anywhere else. Naruto answered with a degree of innocence. The answer filled Mizuki with a sick joy, while deep inside Naruto the fox stirred uncomfortably. So the demon brat really is all alone. As he should be. The perfect scapegoat. Hey Naruto-kun, as congratulations for passing your test so spectacularly, I am here to award you with this scroll of jutsu. It's filled with the strongest as a present for promising shinobi like you. He gave his best eye smile at Naruto while taking out a large scroll off his back. I already copied parts of the scroll, but I won't be able to get away with it all. Better to cut my losses and dump the blame on the demon. Naruto turned his head to look at the scroll and stared off at it for an awkward amount of time. Mizuki tapped his foot impatiently at the boy's lack of response, though he grit his teeth into a smile. What is it? What's wrong? It was only a matter of time before Umbu caught up and he was exposed. Naruto took a few more seconds longer than answering before his eyes shifted to Mizuki, having a calculating edge to them. Do you think I'm an idiot? Just how exactly did you get your hands on the forbidden scroll? Mizuki flinched at getting called out that fast. What? I get it. You betrayed the village and stole the scroll. Probably to take it to some other village where you can seek sanctuary. Not a bad plan. After all, you are a pretty worthless shinobi, so no village would ever take you in without some kind of deal. Mizuki's face quickly turned to growl at Naruto for insulting him in such an uninterested manner. So the demon shows his true intelligence. He summoned a giant shuriken and sliced it down on Naruto, who quickly somersaulted out of the way with a grace as he flew through the air and landed on a tree branch with his hands in his pockets. You just called me a demon. I believe that violates Gigi's law. Sorry, but for your piling up list of transgressions I have to kill you now. Ha, a cocky brat, aren't you? You think just because you are a ninja now that you stand a chance? I'm a Chunin, an elite ninja, while you're hardly a genin. He threw the giant shuriken at Naruto only for him to catch it easily through the ring, with his foot. Nice throw, Mizuki growled and threw his second shuriken at Naruto in rage. Don't mock me, you demon trash. Naruto snapped his leg down, flinging the shuriken back at the other one as they deflected off each other. Why do you keep calling me demon? I didn't even do anything to you. Don't play dumb. Do you really not know? Mizuki jumped up onto the branch at Naruto with a kunai out. Naruto leaned from side to side, dodging them with a tired level of skill. 14 years ago, the nine-tailed demon fox attacked the village and massacred many, even killing our Hokage. In order to beat the demon, it was sealed into a small child. You are that child. You are the demon reborn. Mizuki grabbed Naruto's head in one hand before thrusting his other hand holding the kunai at his face, trying to catch him, while he was surprised. Instead, the kunai was kicked out of his hand sharply by Naruto's foot that shot up in an angle that showed his flexibility. Cool. But then if I'm a demon? He snapped his leg out again, hitting Mizuki's arm and shattering his wrist, causing him to scream out in pain. Naruto's eyes slitted as his hand shot out his pocket and grabbed Mizuki around his neck, choking him. Naruto jumped up in the air before spinning and throwing Mizuki down to hit the ground in a cloud of dust. The man coughed before he vomited blood when Naruto dropped from the air and drove a knee into his ribcage with enough force to break the bones and crack the ground beneath him. If I'm a demon, then how could trash like you ever even stand to me, let alone be worth fighting? Gargling in his own blood, Mizuki spat at Naruto. Why, you monster! Naruto's head tilted as his face shadowed, and all that could be seen was two glowing slitted pupils barring down on him. A monster? You might not be far off with that one. Naruto grabbed a hold of Mizuki's shirt and threw him smacking against the base of a tree. He tried to raise his guard, but fear overtook him as he heard a buzzing in his ear. Naruto slid across the ground at him at high speed, instantly on him in that short distance with his arm held out. Come back to life when you're worthy of killing. Naruto's hand zipped at Mizuki, and from a distance there was a small flash and an echo of a booming noise. So this is the Forbidden Scroll. Naruto held it in his hands now and looked it over. A few seconds later he tossed it carelessly behind him. I don't need it. As if they were waiting right there, the scroll was suddenly caught out of the air as a small squad of Anbu showed up. Naruto turned to them and waved happily. Good, you're here. You guys can take care of this then. Naruto walked past them as they felt the urge to shiver. The battle zone before them resembled the brutal murder of a man by some rampaging beast. The lower half of Mizuki's body was still resting against the tree trunk. The upper half of his body along with the rest of the tree was blown clean away to scatter the grounds behind it. Naruto-kun, you were this strong? Sarutobi's eyes were widened in shock as he stared at Naruto through the viewing orb. Oh, believe me when I say, Hiruzen, that the boy is a near invaluable asset. Sarutobi wheeled in his seat at Danzo's arrival as he glared at his old rival. Danzo, are you responsible for this? I knew I would regret not shutting down your operations. I swear if you have harmed the boy that I dash. I assure you that I have done nothing to the boy other than give him occasional protection and a place to grow, which is more than what you gave him. A confident weapon is way more useful than an unhealthy, socially broken one. Danzo snorted and Hiruzen actually flinched in guilt. Naruto-kun may not be broken, but he didn't seem all that sound mentally either. He decided not to ask Danzo about that for now. I will let this slide only because this benefited Naruto-kun, but don't think I won't be keeping an eye on you so that you don't brainwash the young boy. It is not as if I have not already tried, but the boy seems immune to such things. Danzo nodded his head with an unreadable expression. Of course. The boy, after all, is this village's future, and nothing is more important than securing this village's future, which brings me on to another matter we must discuss. Where were we? Oh right. We were talking about Dash. Naruto appeared back in his mindscape after he entered his apartment. His words fell short as he now saw Kyubi in her yukai form, having added a few years to it to where she now looked 16 and was now the definition of alluring, with a healthy female body with supple breasts, a full yet tight ass, and longer hair. Her lips were also flusher with a dark lining to her upper lip reminding him of the mouth of her fox form. She also had small whisker marks upon her cheeks. She blushed a little and couldn't make eye contact while Naruto's mouth watered before he caught himself quickly and grinned. Are you trying to bribe me into because I have to say you're a natural? Naruto gave her a thumbs up while she growled at him, trying to pull her shirt down, which was now too small and so hugged her chest and had trouble covering her delicates. No, I'm just adjusting. And I rarely have a need for clothes, so I'm not used to making them. Ah, okay. Naruto nodded as he looked around at the now dry dungeon that she was in. As if responding to some silent command, the scene quickly changed to that of a forest filled with lush vegetation and gentle sunlight. Though she was still in her cage. Alright, I believe I asked you if you would like to get out of here? She glared at him in suspicion but nodded. Well then, how would you like to help me out a bit? In exchange I could, let's say, extend the range of your leash? Why would I help you out? I could just let you die. Even work against you at a critical moment. Sure, it would affect me too, but I'd probably respawn eventually. She smirked at the idea. She wasn't sure if she really would survive his death, nor was she actually too happy about the idea of him dying, but she would exact some control from this deal where she could. I suppose you are right. But let's say you do decide to hinder me? Naruto's eyes shadowed, and with a silent step he entered the cage, which made the fox girl stumble back at how boldly he threw caution to the wind. I too can make this very difficult for you. His hair started to flare out wildly, and her hair bristled in the sense of danger as she heard a buzzing in her ears. She growled and quickly grew to her giant fox form. Her real one, which was more red than orange with darkened paws. Do you dare threaten me, mortal child? Suddenly a chain shot out the ground around her neck, tightly choking her and pulling her down to the ground with a crash. She yelped in surprise and saw Naruto standing right in front of her snout. I'm not just threatening, I'm giving you a promise. Naruto's eyes slitted and bore down on her dangerously as an ethereal metal chain formed around his own neck, and he grinned wildly. The chain on her own neck glowed brightly before her bijou form was shattered, and she was instantly brought back down to a teenage girl. Before she could regain her bearings, she cried out when Naruto roughly pulled on the chain that now acted as a leash on her by her neck and held her up to eye level. With the look in his eyes and with how fast the situation was switched on her, she actually felt a certain amount of fear. I'm smart enough to know that I can't take you on in a straight fight, but in here I don't have to. As long as you are my tenant, I can suppress you and drag you through the mud and tan your lovely hide with these same chains. He held out his other hand in a clawing motion, and it started to vibrate and glow white before he held it over his own stomach as the seal appeared and the area around them started to tremble and fall apart, and she twitched as she felt like she was being electrocuted. After a few seconds, Naruto removed his hand. I think it's clear I have other ways of making things worse for you here as well. So tell me now, will we be able to get along? She squirmed a little and shivered from his tone in her ears. It was sadistic, and she could feel him grinning. She nodded her head submissively, looking down. Good, now what is your name? Kekuromi. Dark Beauty? Cute name. Akami seems like it would make more sense though, but I like it anyway. He let go of Kuromi, who now loose stood a little shakily fingering the chain collar and looking nervous. He smiled brightly, dismissing the previous tension. Now then, I ask one more time, would you like to get out of here? She bowed slightly and was a lot more agreeable this time. Why, yes. What would you ask of me? She felt disgusted with herself for her weakness, but at the same time she somehow for some reason enjoyed how her container actually had the balls to manhandle her like that. All I ask is that you be someone I can talk to. Her eyes widened and she looked up at him to see if he was joking. He gave her an eye smile as he rubbed the back of his head. I don't really have friends, and you are the closest person to me, and you probably know quite a bit about me already. I don't care if you dislike me as long as you don't act against me. I'd like to at least be friends, but if you don't want to, then that's fine as long as I can still talk to you. He genuinely just wanted to interact with her. She would get a degree of freedom, and the only catch was to help him and be his friend, which she supposed might benefit her too. Seeing her think it over while she subconsciously rubbed her neck made him drop the chain and look apologetic. Ah no, sorry. I went a little overboard there. She looked at him oddly for a moment before she started to laugh softly into her hand. Alright then, I'll be your partner, Naruto-kun. Naruto calmed down and gave a soft smile that radiated with hers. She had a blush on her face, though it was hard to tell in her small fox body. Remember, Kuromi-chan. If I die while your mind is outside my body, the backlash could destroy your consciousness. She was blushing because Naruto was topless, stretching in the mirror. He was quite toned, and while not built up since he was still growing, he was still quite lean and defined. All in all, a perfect specimen of health. I already told you I won't kill you. I'm just giving you a warning in general. I am a shinobi now after all, and though I don't plan on ever dying, there are dangers everywhere. She sat on his bed and turned into her yukai form while wearing a sleeveless black top that hugged her chest and had a zipper going up the middle and white shorts. The chain was thick and held around her neck now as a semi-permanent accessory to complete her look. She felt the black made her eyes and fur stand out more. She crossed her long legs, which Naruto stared at in the mirror for a second before putting his shirt and jacket on. A moment later his own chain appeared around his neck, though his hung looser. Well, let's get going, shall we? Hatake though is notorious for being late, but I don't want to be late just in case he shows up on time. She nodded and jumped at him, and in a swirl of energy landed on his shoulder as a fox kicked. His eye twitched as he glanced at her. Why did you do it like that? Because it's fun. Now I hope you put on a good show for your queen. Yes, my queen. He mocked her, but the tone he put into it was still enough to make her blush. Having a friend for once might have its benefits. 867, 868, 869 Sakura was watching Naruto perform continuous push-ups in odd fascination, while Sasuke just leaned against a tree and ignored them. It had been almost 3 hours since the time they were supposed to meet in the morning. Naruto knew Kakashi was notorious for being late, so he wasn't really all that bothered like his two teammates were. He decided to take a nap or light resting while he went into his mindscape to spend time with Kuromi. Mostly it entailed him making his mind more comfortable for her. After a good bit of work and just enjoying her company, Naruto left his mind while keeping up a mental link and went into doing push-ups. 900 few. He then moved himself into a handstand and balanced on one arm just to show off a little. Hatake, are you gonna just keep waiting in the tree, or did you think I started these exercises just because? This alerted Sasuke and Sakura as they heard a rustling in a tree ahead of them before Kakashi dropped out. You're late. Naruto winced as he lost his balance and fell on his side, groaning. Too loud. Judging from memory, she is a very vocal human. Why don't you just rip out her tongue? Because I have self-control? He could hear Kuromi snorting in his head, not believing that at all. Kakashi walked up to them, though he was surprised that the assumed dead last was able to detect him. Sorry, I wanted to show up earlier, but I got lost on the path of life. Oh, that makes sense. I've lost my way on that path a number of times. Naruto said it in a ponderous way, but still had enough implied meaning to make both Kakashi and Kuromi flinch. Well, since you all are here, let's get started. Naruto walked towards a stump and placed down a clock and then took out a pair of bells. Alright, you all should find this one simple. All you guys need to do is get a hold of these bells. If you get a bell, you pass. But sensei, there are 3 of us and only 2 bells? Sakura asked the obvious question, which really should not have been asked. Well, that just means whoever cannot work to get the bells fails and gets sent back to the academy. So obviously the test is to get us to work together. The one that doesn't participate in helping get the bell together gets sent back, but then there would just be the 2 of us. There are no permanent 2-man squads in the Leaf Village, which means the test is likely a ruse to see how compatible we are. Naruto grinned mentally while Kuromi looked at him in their mindscape. Wow, you're kind of smart. Kakashi put the bells back on his waist. Alright, then you are free to use whatever means you have available to get the bells from me. You have 1 hour. Begin. They scattered from the clearing while Kakashi stood there without reacting, as he had his nose in his book. After a few seconds, he blinked to see Naruto standing in front of him, in the same way reading a book. You aren't taking this too seriously, are you? I could say the same to you. Kakashi nodded at the retort. Touché. Naruto looked up finally and pocketed his book. So you like reading porn in public? I prefer reading The Art of War. I don't read too often, though. Naruto stood with his hands in his pockets and smiled. Well, I already figured out the point of this exercise, so it really doesn't matter what I do. Kakashi's eyes widened upon hearing that. Already? This kid is supposed to be the dead last of the academy, isn't he? But that won't stop me from fighting you. Naruto took out a kunai before charging at Kakashi. Set to impale his chest, Naruto's eyes widened when Kakashi suddenly vanished. The next moment his arm was held behind back with his own kunai pointed at his skull. It's not very wise to charge head-on at a shinobi like that who far exceeds your own skill level. Kakashi droned out in boredom. Naruto's shocked expression became a grin, and Kakashi's eyes widened slightly when his hand started to shake as Naruto's arm flexed and started to push back against Kakashi's hold. Maybe the worst place to be is close to me? Naruto clamped his teeth and his body bristled as he released a small shockwave that broke Kakashi's restraining hold and pushed him back a meter. What? Naruto's shadow was on him quickly and did a diagonal slash with his kunai, which Kakashi diverted away from him with his own kunai, but still felt the force of the strike. Naruto spun on the balls of his feet and did a swift roundhouse kick to Kakashi's midsection that barely missed him. Naruto followed up with another one and another one, as each kick only missed him by a small margin as he continued to step back. Kakashi's hand shot forward and grabbed Naruto's foot before yanking him and slamming him back into the ground. Naruto's hands shot out as he caught himself into a handstand. Kakashi stabbed straight down at Naruto with a kunai in hand. A moment later, everyone's eyes widened in shock as Kakashi's body started to fall back when the same kunai was now seen embedded in his forehead through his headband. From up in the trees, Sakura and Sasuke's eyes were wide as it went like a blur to them. What? I didn't even see him move. The Kakashi poofed to show a stabbed log instead. Naruto stood up on his feet with his face shadowed, and they noted the air about him seemed different, as if the zone around him was filled with danger. Naruto's head turned discreetly as he searched for Kakashi. Left, right, behind, above. Where are you? A pair of hands shot out of the ground to grab his ankles, only for Naruto to stomp down the moment the ground broke. He grinned as the ground under him was crushed as light flashed through the ground for a second. Base. A grin spread on his shadowed face as the hands under him went limp and blood sprayed from the ground. Of course you're down below. A second later, the same Kakashi disappeared in a poof of smoke. A kunai suddenly was pressed against Naruto's neck as Kakashi stood behind him, watching him intently now. Well, you have my attention now, and apparently the ground is off limits when facing you, huh? What was that trick you used anyway? The air around Naruto suddenly lightened instantly as he gave a more light-mood grin. Actually, being near me in general is off limits, apparently. Kakashi flinched at that as he felt there was another meaning in those choice of words. He stumbled again when Naruto leaned to the side and stabbed himself on the kunai. He vanished in a puff of smoke that had the feel of a firecracker with its low pop as a jolt of vibrations went through the kunai and up his arm, forcing him to drop it on reflex as he held his hand from the tickling of his nerves. He can use shadow clones? What kind of shadow clone was that even? Sasuke had tried his own hand against Kakashi. He had been able to surprise him momentarily a few times, but ultimately he just knew Kakashi didn't take him as seriously as Naruto even though he fought him a little longer. He felt a blaze of fury well up inside him at that. How dare the dead last show him up? He's just a clanless orphan of a loser. He should be better than that outcast. He continued to brood as he watched the clearing where Kakashi was from the bushes. He heard an ear-bleeding feminine scream but he ignored it. Sup? Sasuke tumbled away from the voice before rolling onto his feet with a kunai in hand. He saw Naruto crouching across from him waving. Hey Sasuke. Wanna team up? Sasuke stood up and scowled at him. Why would I team up with you, dope? I'm an Uchiha. I am all the help I need. Oh, you need help, alright. Naruto's face went from cheery to tired as he sighed and stood dusting himself off. Look, Sasuke. Hatake Kakashi is a jounin, an elite one at that who achieved said rank by the time he was the age we are now, whereas we are newly minted genin. With his superior speed and strength, and you not able to use the Sharingan, there is no way you will be able to win alone. The mentioning of the Sharingan seemed to trigger Sasuke as he became fragrant. Oh, and you think you can do better? Know your place. Even without my Sharingan you are hardly even worthy enough to gaze upon my feet. I am an Uchiha, and you are some worthless commoner. Oh, I can do better, alright, I'm bored of this already. Naruto simply walked towards Sasuke, confusing him. Sasuke was about to speak out only for the back of a hand to crack upon the side of his jaw as Naruto bitch slapped him hard, making him knock up against the tree right behind him. Back in the clearing, Kakashi's eyes widened comically from his book as he was somewhat aware of what they were doing because of his sense. What the hell? Sasuke held his face in pain as he groaned out loud. Look at me. Sasuke, without thinking, did so only to receive a first to the other side of his face as Naruto punched him hard to the ground. Naruto then kicked him up in the stomach as he coughed up saliva before he grabbed hold of his shirt and held him up to the tree with one hand. Listen here, princess, I grew up on the streets. Don't think I'll let you run your mouth like that again when I try to be reasonable with you. Else I'll make you cry. Got it, duckass? Sasuke glared out of one eye at him in defiance. Naruto blinked at him bored before suddenly cocking his fist back, causing Sasuke to flinch. Naruto snorted as a smirk found its way on his face and he dropped Sasuke to the ground. That's what I thought. Several minutes passed before Kakashi saw any more action. Without warning, Naruto jumped out of the trees at him with an axe kick. The kid is back for another round. Kakashi pocketed his book and held his arms up to block. When the leg made contact, he gasped when the force of it made his legs shake as the ground under him cracked. Kakashi grabbed hold of the leg and threw him away. Suddenly a barrage of shuriken went through Naruto as he blew up in smoke and went straight for Kakashi. With hardened reflexes, Kakashi whipped out a kunai and deflected them all in rapid succession. He flinched a bit as upon making contact with each weapon a tremor from some kind of charge was sent up his arm. What kind of chakra is this? He turned around again to block Naruto, who had a kunai in his hand. Naruto pressed forward before Kakashi pushed him back and they started to parry each other's kunai in rapid succession, causing sparks to fly. Naruto had a wild grin on his face as he grew progressively faster. Kakashi started to sweat lightly as he held Naruto off. This speed, if it keeps up, I'm going to need my Sharingan soon. Naruto suddenly leaped up with a downward slash, causing Kakashi to block upwards. Kakashi was startled when he saw Sasuke kicking the spot where Naruto had just been with a sweeping kick. The jounin quickly stepped back while throwing Sasuke away and jumping to launch a kick right at the side of Naruto's face hard, all in a fraction of a second's time. Sasuke rolled onto his feet, while Naruto was sailing through the air away. Naruto twisted mid-air and touched the ground with his hands, performing a series of back handsprings. Naruto's fingers dug into the ground, leaving claw marks as he skidded back before dashing full speed at Kakashi, blurring enough to surprise him again. Naruto somersaulted forward with a double stomp at Kakashi's arms as he guarded, causing him to skid back a meter. You are very light and quick on your feet for a genin. Naruto's canines gleamed as he grinned widely as a trail of blood dripped from the corner of his mouth, showing that Kakashi's kick did in fact connect. Thanks. Been a while since someone scored a solid hit on me like that. Naruto pushed off and a building of chakra could be felt along with the sound of hand seals. Kakashi was able to look behind Naruto to see Sasuke going through hand signs he was familiar with. Fire jutsu? A fresh genin should not have enough chakra enough for that. Kakashi then saw Sasuke's line of sight and saw it was on Naruto. Is he trying to kill him? I thought his positioning earlier was just a coincidence. His peripheral vision detected movement as his eyes shifted back to Naruto, only to be surprised once again upon seeing him mimicking Sasuke's hand seals a split second after him. Is he copying Sasuke's jutsu? But that's a Sharingan ability. He looked into Naruto's eyes, which gleamed with mischievous, and while his pupils were a bit narrowed, his eyes were otherwise unchanged. No, it's not the Sharingan, nor is he even facing Sasuke. Is he using the same seals simply by chance? Fire style, fireball jutsu. A giant ball of fire spewed from Sasuke's mouth towards them, head straight for Naruto's back. Right when it was about to hit Naruto, he jumped over Kakashi in a flip as he finished his hand signs. Kakashi ducked under the fireball as it went up ahead behind him where Naruto. Right when it was a meter from Naruto, his cheeks bulged before he let loose an instant shockwave from his mouth. Defying logic. The size of it was equal to the size of Sasuke's fireball, and the pressurized ball of vibrations had the effect of being augmented by Sasuke's fireball as it shot straight through it, turning Ito a bright ball of heated sonic force. Because of how close Kakashi was with him, only being a few meters away from Naruto, and his attack being much faster than Sasuke's anyway, he was hit full force with it near instantly. The ground where Kakashi was exploded in a small crater as his position went up in smoke. Naruto landed on his feet and put his hands in his pockets. Be crushed at the speed of sound. You two are starting to become a handful. A kunai was suddenly up against Naruto's neck as he felt a wave of deja vu. Kakashi wasn't taking this lightly anymore, as he had a serious narrowing in his eyes. Naruto let out a breath to the sky, not acting threatened at all. Where are your bells, sensei? Kakashi's eyes widened as he had actually forgotten about them momentarily, cursing himself for getting distracted. He looked down at his waist to see them gone. Hearing the jingle of said bells, Kakashi looked back at Naruto to see him glancing back at him with a grin, and the pair of bells in hand. Keihi. The hour was now up and the entirety of Team 7 now stood in front of wooden posts. Sasuke was scowling a bit with a few scuffs and bruises on his face, and Naruto was rocking on his feet seemingly oblivious. Kakashi also received a few scraps and had to discard his flak jacket after Naruto's last attack had made it unbearably hot and shattered. Sakura looked depressed as she hadn't done a very good job at all. Naruto, on the other hand, looked like nothing was wrong in the world. Kakashi, after a few more moments, spoke up. Well, I'm impressed. Sasuke, your skills are already high genin level at least, and Naruto, your skills far exceed what was recorded in the academy up until that last even got the bells. So what are you going to do with them now? Naruto shrugged and tossed a bell to both Sasuke and Sakura, surprising her. Well, Sasuke was great when it came to listening to my plan. And what was your plan? To kill me. Kakashi almost lost his footing upon hearing that. What? Naruto held out his hands and gained a dark and crazed look on his face. I knew that the chances of Sasuke willingly fighting with me from the start was very low, so I gave him some incentive. I knew that he would have little issue with trying to harm me, so I used that to my benefit. If Sasuke kept aiming for me or aiming for you through me, you would be concerned with what our goals were and grow distracted. I have a sensor-type ability where I can feel the disturbances in air and sound around me, so I can feel Sasuke's movements even without being able to see him, which makes it easy to avoid and also lets me know what hand signs he is using. Their eyes widened at that, as that was an incredible defensive sensory ability to have. Kakashi wondered where such an ability came from. If the boy used it right, it could serve as a counter to Byakugan and Sharingan users potentially. He was concerned with how willing Sasuke went with such a plan though. But then why, when you used the same hand seals, did you use a different jutsu? Naruto chuckled and scratched his head at the question. That actually is just my version of it. See, I have a problem with my chakra in that I have trouble separating it into different basic natures, but at the same time my chakra passively isn't normal. It's basically like disturbed chakra, as it's audible and shakes a lot. Hard to control and hard to grab hold of to separate. Kakashi was surprised, as that likely meant the boy had a bloodline, though the control issues could be a problem. Well, then I'll note that for later. Why did you give a bell to Sakura though? Surely she didn't help out in your little plan at all? Sakura flinched and looked down at her feet. Naruto simply tilted his head and blinked confused. What are you talking about? Of course she helped. She was able to distract you long enough to where I could form my plan with Sasuke without you being aware of half of it. If she never fell prey to your genjutsu, that wouldn't have happened. Sakura's eyes widened, as did Kakashi's, though for a different reason, as he felt his blood chill a bit. He knew Naruto was lying, but it was also saving face for his teammates. It was likely he just manipulated the situation so that Sakura could benefit as well without her knowing, but that wasn't what bothered him. What put him on edge was the fact that Naruto somehow was aware of the jutsu he used on Sakura even though he was nowhere around at the time. It raised the question as to whether Naruto had some kind of stealth talent he didn't know about and was able to stalk him without him knowing, or that his apparently sensory abilities' range extended far further than he had assumed. Yep, so anyway, Sakura helps, so she gets a bell. Kakashi just decided to chuckle, waving off the information for later. Well then, so those two pass, but now you fail and have to go back to the academy. PSSH, you and I both know I'm not going back. You told us those who got the bells would pass. Well, I already got the bell, so I gave it to them so they could pass. Besides, the bells weren't the main objective anyway. You wanted to see if we could work as a team. I'd say my decision at least shows there is hope. His two teammates looked confused, whereas Kakashi beamed happily. That's right, the goal of this exercise was teamwork. Thereafter are number 2 or 3 man official cells in Konoha, so if one of you failed, you likely all would have been sent back. I'm under the firm belief that those who abandon the mission are trash, but those who abandon their friends are worse than trash, so if you can't even work with your teammates, then I have no problems with failing you all. You guys didn't do great altogether, but you did do good enough for me to pass you. He glanced specifically at Naruto when he said that. Who? Naruto pumped his fist to the air. Hokage's office. Jounin had gathered to give their Hokage their reports on whether or not the teams they were given passed or failed. There was also a number of other Jounin there who were only present to be informed. So teams 1 to 6 were all failures. The Jounin in charge of them, some looked abashed. Sarutobi, the Sandaime Hokage of the village, sighed tiredly at that. Tot was already about 60% of the teams. He knew that there was about a 66% fail rate, but more passed in older generations, and the curriculum was harder back then. An eye-catching Jounin with long wavy black hair and a tight dress that looked like it was formed out of bandages somehow stepped up. Jounin Yuhi Kurenai, reporting that teammate has all are a bit rough around the edges and all have strong character flaws, but together they could potentially mend well. I hope to make them into a prime tracking team. And how experienced was Kurenai even at tracking? It always bothered me how a genjutsu specialist could train a tracking team. A man a few years older with a scruffy beard and a lit cigarette stepped up to the side of her. Jounin Sarutobi Asuma. Team 10 passed. Ino is a bit bossy, but otherwise I didn't have any big problems out of my team. Sarutobi nodded at his son with a smile. So it sounds like we might have 2 promising teams, at least hopefully. Team 9 is still in circulation. Hopefully Kakashi can be here soon with his own report. TCH, probably another failure. I kind of feel bad for whatever team he was given. Asuma took a drag of his cigarette, getting a glare from Kurenai. Many Jounin in the room sighed in agreement. Kakashi was notorious for being too hard on genin hopefuls. Danzo, who was standing to the side of Sarutobi, which put many of them on edge, but seeing their Hokage not bothered by it, didn't say anything, kept silent. The door just then opened to see Kakashi walk in without his flak jacket and his clothes frayed. The hell happened to you? Asuma blinked when Kakashi came to stand up to the side of him. Kakashi simply turned his head at him tiredly before giving an eye smile and directing his attention back to their Hokage, who looked at him in interest. Hataki Kakashi reporting in. Team 7 has some real issues. Sakura is weak, and despite her high grades in the academy on tests, it shows that being book smart does not translate to talent as a shinobi or kunoichi, and she's a fangirl. That last word bothered Kurenai. Then there is the Uchiha, Sasuke. Gave you a challenge, huh, Hataki? A no-name Jounin shouted out, which led to some laughter of agreement. Kakashi ignored them and continued with his report. Sasuke has possibly both a superiority and inferiority complex. He is skilled, possibly high genin level already, if not low chunin, but he's no Itachi. His potential is there, but the level he's at with such a disposition shows how much he has been coddled. He seems to be skilled in fire jutsu already, though. When I fought with him, he was also able to touch the bells on his own because of his talent in taijutsu. This caused murmurs along with comments of, well, that's to be expected, as praise towards the Uchiha throughout the room. And then there is Naruto. Scowls showed up on the faces of many in the room, which the 3 Jounin along with Sarutobi and Danzo took note of. The few in the room who did not react negatively who stood out were Mitarashi Enko, Yugao the Umbu captain who was only there to be briefed, Genma, Ibisu, and a few others. If the clan heads were present, they probably would stand out as well. Naruto is definitely not what I expected, though he may still be an adept troublemaker. He's hard to read as the way he speaks goes from being lighthearted and oblivious to serious and malicious. That unpredictability I wouldn't say is a bad thing, though, as he still seems to be level-headed regardless. But I'm not sure how well he gets along with his teammates. He will back them up, I feel, though. They all looked at him intently for a few moments. But when nothing happened and instead he took out his porn novel and started reading, a tick mark appeared on Kurenai's head as she shouted. Well, are you going to tell us what happened to your vest? Kakashi looked up as if he had forgotten where he was, to which Sarutobi and Asuma chuckled. Oh right, how could I forget? Well, Naruto destroyed it. In terms of raw combat ability, I would say Naruto is both more skilled and stronger physically than Sasuke, maybe even faster, but definitely more agile. He was able to hit me with a booby-trapped shadow clone of some sort, which he apparently can also pull off easily, and could exchange in a kunai duel with me at high speed to the point I almost need to use my Sharingan. The boy also has some sort of sixth sense. When I tried to get him from underground, he simply stomped, and the ground under him impacted and cratered. It was a good thing I used a shadow clone for that. Everyone's eyes widened hearing that. The dead last was actually skilled? He was even able to get Sasuke to work with him to help get the bells from me. Though how he did it was basically physically beating Sasuke into submission via repeated punches to the body and face, I believe. People didn't know how to react to that as that was just so unexpected. Enko and Asuma, however, just started laughing to themselves. Well, he and Sasuke fought me. Naruto showed a recklessness for his own life, as he basically told Sasuke to do what he could against me even if that meant going through him. But that might not have been a terrible plan as it distracted me for his safety, and Naruto apparently has a talent as a sensory nin. He apparently has an ability to feel all the vibrations and movement in air around him to avoid danger. Also, the boy may have a special ability, or maybe even a bloodline, because with the uniqueness of his jutsu along with the sensory ability I mentioned, it all seems to be related to sound, possibly more. What happened to my vest was basically the result of Naruto expelling a shockwave from his mouth at almost point-blank range that was enhanced by a fireball jutsu. Its speed was very fast and destroyed my vest and could have injured me a great deal. Its range probably isn't great, and it appears to have some defensive applications because earlier in the fight when I tried to land a kunai on him, he somehow instantly reflected it back at me with an almost imperceptible but instinctive pulse that sent the kunai back at my skull. Once again, it was a good thing that I could substitute on reflex. Sarutobi resisted the urge to look back at Danzo as he could feel a wave of indifferent smugness on his back. So Danzo was right about Naruto-kun being more than he appeared. I have to make sure he didn't sink his claws in him though. Well, that was pretty easy. Naruto laid on his bed as he played with ninja wire between his fingers. Kuromi was sitting at his desk in front of a mirror in the room combing her hair. I guess you performed well. Compared to the other two children, you definitely seem to stand apart from him. He held the wires loose in one hand and ran his hand over them with his other hand, and through some unseen force they began to grow erect and rigid like needles. Yeah, well, Sasuke was thought to be the best in the class, and they all thought I was the worst. Even if I might not be stronger than Kakashi when he uses his Sharingan, I still did good enough. But all I need is an opponent to get too close to me and I might be able to win one way or another regardless how strong they are, except maybe Akages and elites. Well, not much of the test really mattered to me. I liked when you beat up the Uchiha though. He could feel her grinning as her tail wagged behind her. Yeah, I bet you did. He threw the wires in his hand straight up to watch them embed themselves in the ceiling before going lax a few seconds later. He turned his side to look over at Kuromi and blinked. What are you doing? Her fur bristled before she looked back at him in frustration with several combs and stuck in her hair. I'm trying. Do you want some help? She didn't verbally answer, but her silence was enough for him. He had her sit at the foot of the bed as he held a comb in one hand and ran his fingers through her hair with the other. There was a large amount of static and his hand vibrated lightly as it went through her hair with a dull hum. Your hair really is beautiful and glossy. She blushed at the praise but just pointed her nose up and huffed. Well, would you expect anything less from the queen of the bijou? Hard to believe that despite its appearance it's so matted. Like the only thing you've ever used to comb it was your tongue. That sent her crashing down as her ears drooped, and she glared at him with teary eyes and a blush from embarrassment. I don't think those are things you should say to a woman. I've always been in my bijou form, so I don't have much experience grooming myself in this form, okay? She stopped yelling when Naruto smiled while putting a hand on her head and started stroking her. There, it's okay. Her tail wagged from the feeling as she tried to keep her glare as her body felt weak. Stop it. Let me spoil you at least this much. She sighed in defeat as it wasn't that she didn't like it. It was more an issue of pride than anything. If no one could see them though, she supposed she would allow it. She would ask him later how he was detangling her fur and hair so easily though. Even a master must groom his pets. That earned him a slap though he had been expecting it. The goddess before him that was the strongest bijou would only take so many blows to her pride after all. Keihi. Naruto chuckled lightly to himself as they stood in the office of the Hokage. His chuckling earned him glares from Sasuke and Sakura pointed at his back. Sasuke was covered in scratches and Sakura in dirty as they tried to catch the wicked cat Tora. Naruto didn't have a mark on him. All he had to do was reach out and grab, and the cat didn't even hiss at him. Naruto did feel a tinge of regret at getting the cat though, as it now was being squeezed to death by its owner. Ah, Tora-chan. Mommy's here, it's okay now, I'll never let you out of my sight again. You said that last time, was the deadpan thought of those in the room. The daimo's wife was one who should not be entrusted with any animal, but it wasn't like it was Naruto's problem. Kakashi, of course, didn't help in the task of catching the cat since it was a D-rank mission. After the fat woman left, the others let out a sigh of relief, as did Irika, who was standing to the side of the Hokage to greet the genin who finished their missions. Sarutobi gave a grandfatherly smile at the group as he congratulated them. Well, good job once again everyone on completing another D-rank mission. Gigi, I think it's time we got a C-ranked mission. Irika yelled at Naruto for that. Naruto! He is our Hokage, show him some respect. Naruto just dug in his ear and acted like Irika wasn't even there, which caused a vein to pop on his forehead. The old Hokage chuckled and waved it off. HMHMHM, it is perfectly alright. Well, Kakashi-kun, what do you think? Are your genin ready for a C-rank mission? Kakashi looked over at his students to get a read off of them. Sasuke perked up ever so slightly, showing he was eager for the prospect of finally having a real mission. Sakura looked unsure of herself as she stood silently. He knew that if Sasuke went, then she would fall in as well. Fangirl mentality after all. Hopefully a real mission might make her take things a little more seriously. A sweat drop grew on his head as he chose not to look at Naruto, as he could feel a gaze from Naruto that, while probably appearing innocent, was filled with discreet killing intent that only he could feel. Like if he refused a higher ranked mission, that Naruto might hurt him. He had no major reason to not take a high mission with his team anyway. I think my little genin are more than ready for a C rank. Hell, well, if Naruto-kun thinks he can handle a C rank, then let's get him one. Bring in our guest. The Hokage directed his gaze to an Umbu by the door, who nodded his head. The door opened, and in walked an old man. Not as old as the Hokage though. Probably in his 50s. He was chugging a bottle as he walked up to them. A tremor went through Naruto before he covered his nose. Ah, the smell. Is that normal for Ningen, or does that simply happen with age? Neither, he's a drunk who needs a bath. The man belched before finally addressing the group. So I got a bunch of kids? One looks useless, the other pigeon-toed with a duck-ass for hair. I'd say the blonde looks alright, but he looks like he's about to keel over. Sakura's confidence was hurt, while Sasuke subconsciously touched the back of his head. Naruto just stood straight and ignored the smell via not breathing. Kakashi, I smiled and waved him off. I assure you we are more than capable to protect you. The man looked unconvinced but shrugged. Well, you better be, since I'm playing you. My name is Tazuna. I am building a bridge for my country that is of high importance, and expect you to get me back home safely. They left not long after that, and in a few hours they covered a decent amount of ground. They had to go slower than normally, however, since Tazuna was an old civilian. Naruto was walking with a small fox in his arms as he stroked her back. Sasuke and Sakura looked at him in confusion, while Kakashi actually was slightly on edge. Naruto supposed that was to be expected when you see the boy who is connected to a giant demon fox appearing to be close to a small fox of the same shade. Kuromi was enjoying the spoiling, as Naruto would call it, as she peeked an eye open to look at the others while Naruto continued obliviously. Are you sure it's okay for me to be out like this? Naruto held a small smile to himself at her unsure question. Never thought the great Bijou Queen, who has hardly had fresh air in decades, would feel awkward from just a few gazes. She huffed at him. It's not that. Won't my being out here cause you trouble? Don't worry about it, Kuromi-chan. You just enjoy my soothing caresses. You should feel honored just to touch my coat, mortal. Don't get too cocky. Naruto chuckled at her prideful act. Kakashi watched them and was able to tell they were having some kind of interaction. Naruto, what is that fox? She's my partner and closest one to me. Think of her as similar to a Niken, but much better. Kakashi felt like Naruto wasn't lying, but at the same time was hinting something. He didn't see an immediate problem though, so he wouldn't interfere. I think you are saying too much. She buried her head in the crook of Naruto's arm, suddenly feeling bashful. He could have teased her, but he let it go for now. They had been traveling for a few days now and had just entered into wave territory. Their path for the most part was clear, which was good since they were walking. However, because they were forced to walk, that could possibly make them more prone to traps. His eyes caught a puddle that was in the middle of the path. It was odd how it was so perfectly placed in the middle, yet given how frequented this path was, it would be odd for it to be located as such. His eyes narrowed as he spoke softly to Kuromi. Can you hear that, Kuromi-chan? The sound of bodies breathing in the water. Echoing in a way that shows it's not real water. Yeah, I can sense them. I also feel their dark intent. What do you want to do? Naruto thought for a moment before shrugging and relaxing his eyes. Well, nothing right now, I guess. Who knows, they might be friendly. Kuromi's small fox head looked up to deadpan at him. Do you not know what dark intent is? Naruto ignored her, and she sighed before running up him and going on top of his head as he put his hands in his pockets. Kakashi might have heard them, but he kept reading his book all the while walking forward. After they passed by the puddle, two figures appeared out of it wearing face masks and metal gauntlets. Get him! They made a dash straight for Kakashi and in seconds already had him tied up by a bladed chain. Kakashi's eyes widened in surprise at being captured. The rest barely had time to look back before the two ninja pulled on the chain and tore Kakashi's body to shreds. Tazuna gasped while Sakura screamed in horror. One down. Get the rest, and then the bridge builder. Sakura backed in front of Tazuna with the kunai in guard while Sasuke jumped back to gain some distance. They blurred out of sight with the chain in the air. The next moment they appeared behind Naruto, wrapping the chain around him, now causing a widening of his own eyes. That died down a split second later as Naruto looked back at them and smiled. Wow, you guys are almost as fast as Sasuke. Not bad. They glared at him before pulling on the chain only to see it not tear Naruto apart. What? They grunted as a charge went up the chain, numbing the arms of theirs that held it. Naruto spoke out, annoyed, into the air. Sasuke, how long are you going to wait after they have attacked me? Sasuke somersaulted through the air over Naruto before using his momentum to drive a stomping heel into both of their faces. Gah! They fell back and disconnected their chains. Annoying brat. They ran at him with both their claws pointed at him. A figure blurred by and both Nin had their windpipes running into Kakashi's arms before going limp. Sakura brightened up when she saw their sensei. Kakashi-sensei, you're alive. Sasuke scoffed at their teacher's dramatic return, while Naruto just smiled to himself and sent a vibration through the chain, causing it to fall down to the ground around him harmlessly. Kakashi looked at the two and sighed. I still don't get why you two are so content with a fighting strategy that puts one of yours life in repeated danger. Naruto put his hands behind his head and walked towards them. Hey, it works, doesn't it? He walked to the side of Sasuke and his fingers cracked automatically as he looked at him with a slight edge to his eyes. Though it would be great if the Uchiha was a little more preemptive. Sasuke sucked his teeth and looked away with a scowl. I had to read the situation first. You shouldn't have gotten caught so easily if they were slower than me. Naruto's eyes bore into the back of Sasuke's skull for a second before he relaxed and let out a breath of resignation. I guess you have a point there. Kakashi shook his head before addressing all of them. Well, anyway, good job everyone. Sakura, despite your fear, knew to guard our guest. Sasuke and Naruto, regardless of how you did it, still were able to handle two Chunin level Nin. Naruto, how did you stop the chain from injuring you anyway? Well, it's kind of instinctive half the time, but in the face of incoming attacks my chakra pressurizes the air around the general area I'm going to be struck, and then charged vibrations are bounced through that compacted atmosphere, both stopping and repelling. It's very conductive, which means if I increase the charge it can be used offensively. It works way easier on metal weapons rather than other physical attacks though. Kakashi nodded his head at the information. That would explain a few things he's done. Sakura was surprised while Sasuke balled his fists. Not only is he a censor, but he has such a defense too? Just hurry up and get your Sharingan, that'll make things fun. Naruto smiled, catching Sasuke's thoughts, which widened when Sasuke kept ignoring him. Kuromi finally moved off his head to bite his ear, causing him to yelp. Kuromi, what's wrong? That was boring and I hate Uchiha, so that was your punishment for encouraging him. But he's my teammate? And? Kakashi was just confused as he watched them, as he only understood what Naruto was saying and not the fox. He turned towards Tazuna, who looked nervous and spoke in a serious tone. Tazuna, those two were Chunin from the Mist Village, the Demon Brothers. Kuromi scoffed at such a name, causing Naruto to snicker at her. They knew you were the bridge builder and aimed to target you. We believed that this was a simple escort mission and maybe we would have to protect you from a few bandits. The fact that there are actual ninja after you could potentially elevate the rank of this mission and put my team at risk. Tazuna sweated at being caught before just coming out and telling them the problem. He told them about Gato and his town, and how resources were scarce, and those that they had were being drained. Well, this is definitely a B-rank mission now at least. Kakashi stroked his chin, thinking about what the course of action should be. I say we keep going. This is my first mission outside of the mission. I won't be too happy to have it go on record that my first real mission ended in retreat. Naruto shrugged. Well, that's how you feel, but what about the others? Kakashi looked at his other two genin to see their responses. Sasuke nodded as well in agreement. As much as I hate to admit it, I agree with the dope. I as an Uchiha can't afford to have such a mark on my record either, so I say let's continue. Sakura was the only one who looked unsure of herself but agreed because everyone, mainly Sasuke, did. Kakashi clapped his hands. Well, I guess today is your lucky day, Tazuna. They had gotten much further into wave after riding a boat to where the landscape had gradually changed. Now the air was more humid and a thin mist started to build. Naruto started to become slightly jittery, which made Kuromi look at him in concern and gained Kakashi's attention. Naruto, what's wrong? Ha, just not used to this. His eyes darted around as the mist slowly thickened. I've gotten used to my sixth sense and the environment I use it in. You know how I sense through air and vibrations? Well, sound is basically vibrations moving through the air to be perceived by the ear. Sound moves 4 to 6 times fast through liquid. The air here is a much higher water content than back in the land of fire. My sense expands out similar to a sphere from my body. It's still going out normally, but where it hits the moisture in those areas, my sense speeds up and expands. It causes it to fizzle about like static and is kind of dizzying. And what makes it worse is the mist is getting thicker, which will make it harder to wait. This mist feels thicker than normal water particles. This is someone's chakra. Kakashi's eyes widened near the end of that, and as Naruto finished, a whirling noise came at them. Everyone get down! They all dove down with Kakashi tackling Tazuna. Naruto ducked down in a crouch as a giant sword flew across above him where his head had been. It went on to embed itself in a tree in front of them as a tall man appeared standing on its hilt. Kakashi stood up, as did the others, as he locked eyes with the shinobi. So now we have to deal with rogue Miss Nin Momoichi Zabuza. Naruto stood up with his arms drooping as he sweated lightly with a grin on his face. So he's a rogue Nin, huh? That means if he's killed by us there will be minimal to no political fallout with the village he is native to. Well, yes, but dash. Ho ho ho. So even the great copycat Kakashi knows of me. That kid of yours has some spunk, I give him that, but he looks like he's about to pass out. Kakashi glanced back at Naruto to see him sweating with a slight quiver. Shit, what's going on? Everyone just stay back and protect the bridge builder. I'll handle this, but I'll have to use my Sharingan. He lifted up his headband showing the red eye. Sakura's eyes widened in surprise while Sasuke was shocked. Why does he have that eye? Oh, I get the Sharingan right off the back? I guess this means you won't just give up the bridge builder and be done with it. Sorry, but no can do. Kakashi took out a kunai and tightened it in his grip. Though his lower face was covered in bandages, they could feel Zabuza smirk. Well, looks like I can get some more enjoyment out of this then before I kill you all. Zabuza pulled the sword out of the tree before vanishing from sight. Hidden mist jutsu. As the voice intoned, the mist around them thickened rapidly until they had near zero visibility. Pretty soon the mist made it so they couldn't even see Kakashi, who was a few meters in front of them. Tazuna was fearing for his life as the genin guarded him. Sasuke's eyes darted around trying to spot any danger. Sakura had worry present in her voice upon feeling the unease. Who is this guy? There are 8 points. A chill went down their spine upon hearing Zabuza's voice. Naruto shook slightly as a cold sweat covered him. He's an A-rank jonin. Larynx, spine, lungs, liver, jugular, subclavian artery, kidneys, heart. All ways to kill you. He specializes in both assassination and the execution of multiple targets and is a master of the silent killing technique. Shit, the thickening mist is oversensitizing my sensory abilities. It's ruining my nerves. Not bad, the kid knows his stuff. But how far will that get him? Kuromi leaned over from on top of his head and looked him dead in the eye, angry. Naruto-kun, don't you dare embarrass me here. You are my container, prove that my interest is well placed and don't cower. Naruto heard what she said and was about to say something when a wave of intense killing intent washed over them. Naruto's body went rigid as the other two genin paled. The lack of sound made it worse when Zabuza suddenly appeared in the middle of them and all they heard was his voice. Getting distracted in the middle of a battle will cost you your life. Moving automatically, Naruto pushed Tazuna back and kicked Sakura and Sasuke away. A split second later, Zabuza's giant blade tore through his midsection and bisected him. No! Kakashi cried out, not getting there fast enough, not having anticipated Naruto moving like that. Before the body could fall, it destabilized and in a burst let loose a pulse of vibrations and an electric charge that hit Zabuza's blade and went up through his arm. What? Zabuza's arms were stunned to the muscle as his blade shook in his hands with the sword out mid-swing. Before Kuromi in her small fox form could fall to the ground, a hand reached out and grabbed her around the scruff of her neck before she was pulled back and turned face to face with Naruto again. A Naruto who was now equating on top of Zabuza's sword. His eyes were half-lidded and slitted as he smirked. Ah, that's better. I've had my life be put at risk most of my life. No way killing intent like yours could get to me like that. Compared to the bloodlust of an actual demon, you're just a frail imitation. Everyone was not expecting Naruto to avoid death in such a cool way like that. It was simple but worked. The mist had disoriented Naruto's area sensory ability. Having relied on it for years, having it altered was uncomfortable. However, he adapted fast, and the blast of killing intent let his body recognize the danger he was in and jump-started Naruto's instincts. Instincts that Danzo helped hone. They looked closely and could see sparks starting to fly up in the air around Naruto. So his bloodline is both wind and lightning chakra at least, and possibly earth with how the tremors go off. Kakashi didn't have time to think about it right now though, as he dashed at Zabuza with his kunai and stabbed him through the chest while Naruto backflipped away. Zabuza's body dissolved into water only for another Zabuza to show up behind Kakashi and decapitate him. That Kakashi then turned into water. Pretty soon both Kakashi and Zabuza had their weapons locked against each other. They were in the mist, and so they could be heard now, but not too well. Naruto had his eyes closed as he now consciously reached out his sense and felt where they were. He opened his eyes and then glanced at Kuromi, who looked confused and was still being held by her scruff like a small animal. Your container, huh? Naruto grinned slyly and Kuromi blushed and looked away. The fact she was in her fox form didn't help because Naruto could mentally see the image of her human form overlap it. That was just to make you feel important. My pride is on the line after all. When you look bad, I look bad. Naruto nodded in agreement. Yeah, I guess. Still though, you got a bit possessive there and overreacted and even said you were interested in me? Well, you are an interesting human being? I don't think that's what you meant. At all. Kuromi disappeared in a puff of smoke to hide inside of him, which just caused him to chuckle. Cute. He looked back at Kakashi to see them going at it. I can't believe Kuromi-chan actually thought I was cowering. Guess I'll have to show her. He walked up to his teammates and Tazuna, who looked at him before focusing back at where Kakashi was fighting. So do I get any ratings for that performance? Really? Nothing? Alright then. Kakashi and Zabuza traded blows as they dueled. That kid of yours is actually kind of impressive, Kakashi. Yeah, he may be reckless, but I suppose if he is tasked with protecting the team in my stead, then I don't need to worry. We'll see about that. Zabuza suddenly let go of the sword and kicked Kakashi, sending him a good distance into the air and to the lake next to them. Kakashi glared as he pulled himself out of the water. Damn it, he surprised me. Why is this water so dense? Because it's a trap, dumbass. He gasped when Zabuza was already standing on the water behind him. Suiro no Jutsu, water prison technique. Kakashi was submerged in a sphere of water and was quickly rendered of the ability to move. Shit, I got sloppy. Hee, you aren't getting out of this one, Kakashi. Now for the kiddies. He made hand seals with one hand and formed two water clones. Guys, don't worry about me. The water clones can only go so far from their caster. Take Tazuna and run. No can do, sensei. Naruto walked up to the two Zabuzas with his hands in his pockets. This can't be that hard. Play the secret ingredient called victory. One of the Zabuzas scoffed at him. You're a cocky brat, huh? Both Zabuzas swung their blades at Naruto's chest and neck only for them to explode into droplets of water. Zabuza, I actually have to thank you. Your mist was so dense that it affected my sensory abilities and both diffused and conducted certain properties of my chakra. Thanks to that, I am able to finally separate my lightning chakra out separately from my bloodline. So really using water constructs against me wouldn't be the smartest thing right now. Naruto was one who was beginning to be seen as extraordinary in their eyes. Sasuke, you ready? Naruto took out a giant collapsible shuriken and tossed it to Sasuke. He looked at it confused. A Fuma shuriken? You should know what to do with it. Sasuke rose an eyebrow before looking over at Zabuza. The nin's movement appears to be restricted by the jutsu he is using on Kakashi. He is still capable of doing one-handed seals for jutsu, but his mobility likely can't change. Which means you're a marked target. Sasuke hurled the shuriken at Zabuza with all his strength as it zoomed over the water. The kid has great aim, but don't think I'm an easy target. Zabuza jumped off the water without removing his hand from the prison, avoiding the giant shuriken. Is that the best you kids got? PSSH, no. Naruto scoffed as he formed with his hands the bird's seal and then held them in the snake's seal at instant speed. Don't have a name for this yet, so I'll just respond, right back at Cha. He closed one eye and concentrated on his seal and chakra. There was the sound of buzzing and Zabuza looked back to see the shuriken slow in its travel before it hovered in place and shot back at him. What? It hummed straight for his waist again. Zabuza backflipped in place without ever removing his hand as it was skillfully dodged. The same childish trick won't work again. Naruto let go of his seals as he stood straight up and with one hand formed the elemental seal for lightning, a closed hand with the index finger and pinky out. With that seal he pointed it straight to the ground in a directness and level of calm that could be described as cool. Even my childish tricks outsmart you. When Naruto's hand seal pointed down, the shuriken that Zabuza dodged went straight down, sticking halfway into the water where he had been standing and spun like a buzzsaw. Zabuza landed and looked down at it surprised. It started to shake and glow before it destabilized. For a split second it took on the outline that was reminiscent of Naruto before it expanded in an electromagnetic burst. VSSH. Gah! Zabuza's body seized up as it stunned him, and he let go of the water prison. Losing his balance, he fell down into the water. Kakashi gasped as he was now free of the prison and was crouched on top of the water. The others let out a sigh of relief while Sasuke smirked. Naruto put his hands behind his head and relaxed as he walked a step in the edge of the lake. Well, that was fun. Not that hard though, clearly Rouge Nin just aren't ready for me yet. You! The water erupted in front of Naruto, destroying the calm and alerting the others again as Zabuza had his sword held high with murder in his eye. He cleaved down to split Naruto in half. It's the braggarts that die early. Shush. Zabuza's eyes dilated as his blade was blocked by two palms holding it at the sides. The ground cracked under Naruto from the force of the swing. He looked up dead at Zabuza, blasting his own killing intent with finely slitted pupils. Sound travels 4 times faster in water. Zabuza pushed down harder as Naruto's arms shook and he grinned excitedly. A second later Zabuza's eyes bulged as he gasped when something thick and metal hit him sideways in the midsection and he was knocked away. He skid back on the water holding his stomach. When he looked back at Naruto, he felt a chill to see a thick metal chain of chakra coming out of Naruto's backside and waving about. That chain! That's impossible. Boy, what is your name? Naruto thumbed his chest and relaxed again. His headband gleamed on his forehead. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. Konoha's ultimate weapon. And Uzumaki? There are still young ones around? Zabuza didn't have time to think about it much before Kakashi spoke up, standing in the water behind him. How pathetic to have a fresh genin outwit the great demon of the mist. Zabuza remembered he was there and scowled at him. Kakashi glanced over at Naruto, hiding his amazement. He is full of surprises. He formed a plan with Sasuke, quickly giving him the demon wind shuriken and threw it at Zabuza. By doing so it diverted attention from him so that Zabuza was less likely to sense the chakra being used right away. Along with that, he made it seem like he gave Sasuke an actual shuriken when it was actually one of those disrupting shadow clones shaped into one. Then displayed how connected he was to his own chakra to be able to change the course of the projectile in mid-air whether it was a clone or not. He has a careless personality, but that may also be part of a facade, as he purposefully stepped in the water to sense where Zabuza was at a higher rate before he attacked. But on top of that, he has those chains that I've only heard of. If they are what I think they are, then they have nothing to do with the fox, and I'll need to ask the Hokage some questions when we return. Zabuza started forming hand signs and grew uneasy when Kakashi imitated him simultaneously. Suetun, Suryuden no Jutsu. Both shinobi summoned giant water dragons from the lake to do battle against each other, only for it to end in a stalemate. Zabuza narrowed his eyes through the spray of water. Let's see how he handles this then. He started forming more hand seals for another jutsu, only to freeze up when he noticed Kakashi doing the exact same again. Damn you, stop dash! Copying you? Sorry, but I already know this jutsu. Kakashi finished the seals while Zabuza was distracted, all the while Naruto watched their every movement with rapt attention. Suetun, Daibakufu no Jutsu. Zabuza didn't have time to get away before a giant blast of water formed in front of Kakashi and shot straight at Zabuza, plunging him through the lack and almost drowning him as he was through against a tree. After the water receded back to the lake, Kakashi held out a kunai ready to end this. Naruto's hair bristled as he felt something and his head snapped to look to the side. A moment later, 2 Saban needles shot out the trees to hit Zabuza in his neck as he slumped over painless. The others went on guard again as a lone hunter Nin showed up. He held his hand up as feeling the unease. I mean you all no harm. Sorry to intrude, but I have been on Zabuza's trail. I suppose if that's the case, then since you killed him you have the bounty rights. Kakashi signed as he pocketed his kunai. The hunter thanked him, but their words fell short when Naruto walked up. His hands were still in his pockets and his posture relaxed, but the threat in his aura that he gave off caused the hunter to respond the same as tension built between them. Even if you were on his trail, this wasn't your battle. To interrupt only at the end like that and steal a man's prey. Well, that can be seen as flat-out disrespectful. Naruto looked at him critically as the hunter looked at him the same. Kakashi looked between the two curiously. He's the same age as Naruto, yet he's an elite assassin. Yet even though Naruto is outranked, they give of the same threat levels. Who is this kid? Even Kakashi wasn't sure which kid he was referring to at that moment. Naruto, stand down, it's fine. Naruto obeyed and lost his edge instantly as he turned on his heel and walked back to the others. The hunter Nin nodded his head. Thank you, and once again I apologize for my rudeness. With that they shined away with Zabuza's body. Tazuna finally let out a breath now that the threat had passed. He had to admit those kids were definitely skilled, especially the blonde. Well, let's keep going. They continued walking and Naruto walked very close to him, causing him to raise an eyebrow. What are you, dash? His legs gave out as he felt weak. Should I use too much chakra? Naruto held out his arm and was there to catch him on his shoulder easily. I could feel your weakened chakra levels. I was wondering when you would fall over. You really need to work on your stamina. Kakashi glared lightly at Naruto for the berating but was too weak to say anything about it. Naruto swung him around like limp luggage as he turned to Tazuna. Hey bridge builder, how much further is your place? I'm gonna need to drop Kakashi-sensei down somewhere so he can rest. You all are welcome to stay at my home. We have enough space and it shouldn't be much more than half an hour away from here. As they walked, Naruto heard the syrupy voice of his hot bijou queen in his head. You did good, container. Naruto mentally snorted as he felt the need to tease her. Don't you mean my container? Don't get ahead of yourself. You may be giving me a certain amount of freedom, but I can still make this a challenge for you. Her voice hardened as she gave off a sense of authority. The moment she said that, while he was walking with Kakashi, he suddenly showed up in his landscape in front of her, causing her to back up a step in surprise. He grinned with his canines as he leaned in and fingered the chain collar around her neck. Well, I do love a challenge. She blushed, bothered from the near contact and strong presence he gave off at that moment. You are my closest friend, so I'll address you closely, Kuromi-chan. He let go of her and turned around to stop messing with her. But if you don't want to do the same, I guess that's fine. She let out a breath as she let the blush fade from her face and pushed back what was just said for later. They stood there in silence as Naruto focused on his surroundings on the outside. Naruto. His mental self looked back at her. That hunter person. They were lying, you know. Yeah, I know. If she was surprised by that, she didn't show it. Well then, what are you going to do about it? Well, if they mean to go against me, then that probably means I'll run into Zabuza again. So I'm going to work on my chakra control so I can be more than ready next time. Your container has to prove to the world he's strong, right? He smirked, to which Kuromi matched. Yes. You do. Thank you for protecting my father. I am his daughter Tsunami. A natural beauty greeted them at the door of Tazuna's home as she bowed to them. No problem at all. Naruto responded cheerily with a nice smile as he had an out of it Kakashi slung over his shoulder. The rest of the group looked at him dryly. There was very much so a problem, you dumbass, was the collective thought of the group. Tsunami smiled at them as she nodded to her father. You all must be tired. You are welcome to rest here during the duration of your mission if you wish to, though we don't have a whole lot to offer. Thank you for your hospitality. If you could show me to a room where I can drop off our lazy sensei, I would be grateful. Of course, right this way. She smiled warmly and led them all in. Naruto sly opened his eyes slightly and watched her back as she led them through the house. I wonder how far her hospitality will go. He lost his footing as a sharp pain suddenly went through his chest and he felt hot. His legs gave out and he fell to the ground motionless, dropping Kakashi, who groaned. Sasuke just looked down at him and rose an eyebrow. Huh. Shit, I did a bad thing, Naruto said out loud to himself, which only further confused them. Naruto's eye twitched as he stared at Kuromi, who was laying on her side outside the territory of where she could go, as a gate marked the territory. Kuromi, what the hell? Oh, my apologies, I seem to have tripped. She had an emotionless expression as she refused to make eye contact with him. The response caused him to deadpan. Outside the seal? Accidents do happen. He stared at her there on the ground for a little longer. Sighing, he moved and picked her up, bridal carry, causing her to blush. Reaching a small lake with a waterfall, he formed a couch, not caring how out of place it was, and dropped her roughly in it. Hey! You're all right. He left his mindscape to rejoin reality to see that he had been dropped off in a guest room. Gauging his senses, he could tell where everyone was in the house. Kakashi appeared to be resting in another room while everyone else was mostly in the bottom of the house. Naruto gathered his unique chakra in his hand before moving it over the seal on his stomach. In a poof of smoke, Kuromi appeared on the futon. Huh, what is it? Naruto, without saying a word, sat down behind her and gentle grabbed her tail as he brought out a brush. She shivered a bit when he started to brush her fur. She rose an eyebrow and looked back at him amused. Oh? Spoiling me again? Yeah, well, you seemed suddenly jealous of our hostess. She turned her head away, trying to look oblivious. I'm not sure what you mean. Naruto just shook his head and chuckled. I'm the one trying to get you freedom, and yet you're the one clinging to me. There is more to freedom than just no person having proprietary rights over me. Besides, I'm just being protective of my container. Who knows what diseases you could catch from the woman? Well, I wouldn't catch anything actually. I don't get sick, and Jinchuriki have both a healing factor and immunity against cancers and sexually transmitted diseases. That's an oddly specific piece of information you have, but that doesn't matter. I still don't want you getting too close to that female. Better safe than sorry. Yeah, you're jealous. He gave a sneaky grin at her neck as her ears twitched and her eyes shone in irritation. Just hurry up and finish grooming me. She felt compelled to punch him if he said anything else. She squeaked when Naruto's arms her shoulders to cross in front of her and pulled her in a deceptively intimate grasp. Don't worry, Kuromi-chan, I am your container after all. I'll continue to spoil you as long as you allow me to do so. I don't believe I actually gave you permission to do anything beforehand. Naruto's smile dropped for a second as his eyebrow twitched at her. You didn't have to verbally say it if your actions say otherwise like that. He shook the thought away and smiled again. Still though, having the Bijou Queen herself allow me to hold her this close. Well, I'd say that makes up for my childhood at least a little. This caused her to grow somber as she looked down at the futon. Naruto's smile grew soft seeing her reaction to mentioning his past. If it weren't for me, your life would have been better. I'm sorry for dash. He put a finger under her chin and turned her head to him. One thank you is worth 100 sorries. I can't say my life would be as interesting without you, so if anything I should be thanking you. She lightened up and returned his smile. Thank you for allowing me to be your friend, MMPH? Her eyes widened when Naruto planted his lips on hers. It was soft and sweet and lasted long enough for her to regain her thought processes. And in a blur her tail grabbed him and slammed him down onto the floor. Thump. The others were downstairs doing various things. Tsunami was in the kitchen while Sasuke was sharpening his kunai. Hearing the loud thump from upstairs, he looked up at the ceiling. The hell is the dope doing? Naruto blinked in a half-open gaze as he lay there spread out on the ground. Shit, did I read the mood wrong? Why you can't just go and do that suddenly? Well, in my defense, I felt you were about to friend-zone me, and this is one of those moments where a guy doesn't want to hear that. I don't know what any of that means, but it still sounds like a terrible excuse. Okay, fine, next time I do it, just stop me, okay? Next time, you're moving too fast. Time is short. I'm a ninja, so who knows how long time will favor me. He looked up at her as she stood over him. Her cheeks puffed out at him in frustration. For a Bijou Queen, you sure do get flustered like a schoolgirl pretty easily. But I find it cute. She glared at him for a few seconds before there was a poof of smoke and she was seen in her fox form again. She laid down on the futon and closed her eyes. You have permission to continue grooming me. Naruto chuckled before he sat up and shook his head. Well, my beast is my responsibility after all. It was the next morning. Tsunami was kind enough to fix breakfast for them. Kakashi-sensei, what do you mean that ninja is still alive? Kakashi sipped at his tea while the others gathered around him at the table. Or rather, he just held it to his face. They had no idea how he was even going to drink that with his mask on. The news of the ninja who gave them so much trouble being alive was a concern that Sakura basically voiced for everyone else. Yar, so much noise this early in the morning? They looked to see Naruto walking down the stairs with Kuromi on his shoulder. Ah, Naruto, how good of you to join us. Naruto nodded to Kakashi in greeting. So I see you believe Zabuza is alive as well? The Jonin rose an eyebrow at that. Oh, so you figured it out as well? Yeah, I figured it out as it was going on. Zabuza may have appeared lifeless and the hunter name might have been convincing, but a few things didn't add up. When a person sleeps or is paralyzed, their pulse can go to near unreadable levels, and there are methods of making one's pulse or heart stop without killing them for short instances of time. Well, even if any of things happen, you can't quiet the sound of the soul, and that's something my sense can pick up easily on prone bodies. Also, I can tell when someone like that is lying to me, so I didn't believe the hunter at all. Kakashi's eyebrow rose a bit at the new information. You can sense souls too? The sound of the soul I can feel, not the soul itself. But it's close enough, so I guess you can say I do sense them in a way. But as I said, I only really notice it on prone bodies. If the body is moving, then it's hard to detect this, what with all the other sound it would be causing. Ah, I see. Well, I figured the Zabuza was alive because the hunter who took him didn't destroy the body after he captured him. For hunters, it's simple convenience for them to destroy the bodies on sight and take only the head. It ensures death and is also safer for a number of reasons. It's something that you all should have been taught in the academy. Well, if that's the case, why didn't Sakura figure it out then? The pink-haired girl blinked at Naruto, suddenly directing the attention towards her. What? Why me? Well, Sakura, you were supposedly the only in our class who was the most book smart. That is your only strong point right now, so as your only area of usefulness, you should at least pay attention to your surroundings and give us input, as your information could mean the difference between life and death. She shrunk back a little at being pointed out before her expression turned to anger. Who do you think you are? What makes you think some class loser like you can tell me what to do? Naruto blinked as others reeled at the loudness. What? But I wasn't telling you what to do. I was just wondering why you are no help to this team. Kakashi winced at that, and was about to say something as Sakura felt like she had been stabbed. Her face started to turn red with anger before she was hit with killing intent that blasted it away. Naruto's face shadowed as his eyes bore her down. Sasuke consciously distanced himself from them a bit, already used to this. But I can tell you what to do now, Haruno. You can work or die because that's your only choice. I will only pull your weight for so long, and Sasuke, as much as he hates me, if he ever has to choose between saving me or you, he would choose me instantly, and you know why. She was frozen in place as Naruto walked right up to her, and no one moved to stop him. He leaned into her ear and grinned darkly. Because I'm actually useful, whereas you're a fucking fangirl who is worth even less than her own vagina is worth to her object of interest, and would be better off as a paperweight for some rand dash. Naruto-kun. He stopped before he got too far as Kuromi called him from her spot on his shoulder. Yeah? He responded mentally. I know she's not much, but I just don't want you to say something you can't take back. Isn't she your ally? It was more just advice than her actually caring about the pink-haired human. Only because she's a Konoha shinobi. But yeah, you're right. He refocused his eyes on Sakura to see her pale and scared as she looked over from him to Sasuke for a second, only for him to look away. Naruto's aura changed instantly as he backed up and gave an eye smile. Gomen got a little excited. Anyway, Sakura-chan, just work hard and find something you're good at, and I'm sure you'll be fine. Naruto turned on his heel and headed over to the kitchen where their hostess was. Hey Tsunami-san, how about I help you with breakfast? The woman jumped a bit at the sudden change as the young shinobi made her a bit nervous before she cooled herself and gave a small smile with a nod. Thank you, Naruto-san, but I wouldn't want to trouble you. No trouble at all. I've learned a thing or two about cooking. Kakashi let out a sigh at the issues with his team. Sakura was still standing there, as if she had just survived a near-death experience. Well, at least he didn't physically beat her into submission like with Sasuke. All of Team 7 was now standing in one of the forests nearby Tazuna's home. Alright, it's time to start your guys' training. You're finally going to do your job now, Kakashi? Kakashi sighed as he held himself up on a crutch in front of his genin. Naruto, please. The innocent expression the boy wore outside of combat he was pretty sure was fake half the time too, as it made his words worse. I will be teaching you all how to better use your chakra better. But Kakashi-sensei, we know how to use chakra already. Naruto glanced at Sakura before shrugging. Probably some exercise. I can always use more control. Yes, Sakura, I know you all know how to use chakra. If you didn't, then you likely wouldn't be shinobi now, would you? No, what I'm planning to teach you is a must for all shinobi. It's called tree walking. A breeze went by and he was met with silences, his genin thinking different things. So I finally get to learn that? Naruto scratched his cheek and thought. I was wondering when that would come up. Huh, was Sakura's intelligent response. Here, let me show you all. Kakashi limped over to a tree with his crutches. Ichi placed a foot on the tree and Sakura's eyes widened at seeing him walk straight up while still hobbling. Sasuke and Naruto, however, had their eyes twitch. Show off. To do this, you have to channel chakra to the part of your body making contact with the tree and have it in a steady stream. Too much and you blow off, too little and you fall. I want you all to do this until you can do it as easily as walking on land. Use a kunai to mark your progress. Sasuke moved to go first. He closed his eyes for a moment until he felt his chakra and ran towards the tree. He kept going until about a third of the way up, impressing Kakashi before marking it and jumping off. Well done, Sasuke. Damn, it's harder than I thought. He thought he would be able to breeze through such a simple exercise. This is actually kind of fun. The men blinked before looking to see Sakura already up high in the tree on a branch. Sasuke glared at her, causing her to flinch, while Kakashi's eyebrow rose. Great job, Sakura. Looks like your control over your chakra is excellent. Naruto was cupping his chin as he stared at the tree in thought before Kakashi snapped him out of it. Well, Naruto, you're the only one left. Naruto shrugged and picked Kuromi up off his shoulder and placed her down on the ground before walking. Let's try this. I have a huge amount of chakra, so let's test with a tiny bit. He spoke to himself before placing his heel against the tree. SHHHH. Sawdust started to fly in the air and his foot wasn't staying attached. What? He increased the output, and that's where it went to hell. His leg spazzed about before it went off to the side and he tumbled a little on the ground. Ha! Why you say I'm useless but you can't even climb a tree? What a sorry excuse for a shinobi you are. Sakura obnoxiously screeched, only for Kakashi to reprimand her. Sakura, the tree exercise is one that takes both precise control as well as a very small amount of chakra. An amount that is so small that after a certain point seasoned shinobi don't even notice the drain. While you do indeed have great control, your reserves are hardly even more than twice that of a civilian your age. Naruto's reserves are unnaturally massive. You could say that he probably has at least 10 times the chakra I have, which is several hundred times more than what you have. I heard he apparently did pass the graduation with high scores despite his performance in the class. For a ninja his age to even be able to pull off the clone jutsu would be near an act of kami itself. Which means he puts in the work, so if anyone has a right to berate anyone, it's him, and not you. Both Sakura and Sasuke's eyes widened infinitely at that information. Kakashi lightened up right after, however. Well, I probably exaggerate a little, but you got the point. This exercise does not have the same level of difficulty for everyone, but it is something that should be learned. They felt the pressure from below, and Kakashi sweated slightly when they saw Naruto standing silently with his eyes shadowed. He walked back up to the tree and lifted his leg with a fair amount of chakra. Naruto, what are you doing? A sinister gleam showed through the shadows of his face for a second before his leg whisked through the air and struck the tree hard. While not enough force to do a whole lot, the interaction of his chakra with the wood was an interesting sight. A large chunk of the trunk at that level was knocked out in an explosion of wood fragments and sawdust. Sasuke ran out of the way while Sakura screamed out and lost her balance. Kakashi fell as well but landed on his feet out of the way of the falling tree. Sakura shut her eyes as she fell, only for her descent to stop. She opened her eyes to see Naruto holding her up by the back of her shirt. She shivered at the hard look before he wordlessly dropped her to the ground and started to walk off. Kakashi watched him go before looking back at the tree. He noted that while he hit it well, the boy had still hurt himself from that stunt. His chakra is so problematic naturally. If he doesn't work on his control at least as much as Tsunade did by her prime, it could do him more harm than good. You're pretty hot-headed at times, aren't you? Naruto sat against a tree with his eyes closed as he petted Kuromi on his lap. He hadn't even been gone maybe 10 minutes before Kakashi showed up. Are you here to lecture me? Now don't be like that. Here. He tossed a slip of paper to Naruto. Naruto caught it between his fingers without reacting. There was a fizzing noise and Naruto opened his eyes to see the wisps of something in his hand before it vanished. What was that? Kakashi was very startled by what he saw. The moment Naruto touched the paper, it was like it went up a dematerialized dust. That is remarkable. Naruto, during the fight with Zabuza you learned how to use a lightning affinity, right? Yeah, more like I figured out how to separate the lightning out of my chakra. That's what I thought. Here, this time suppress your lightning nature as much as you can. He tossed another paper to Naruto, who did as he said and caught the paper confused. This time his eyes were open to catch what was happening. The paper rippled as if waves were going through it before it exploded into smaller pieces, and those pieces then burned up. That was cool. I can't believe it. What I just gave you was chakra paper used to figure out a shinobi's affinities. We already know about lightning and I suspected wind as well. But from that show, from the paper, you definitely have a fire affinity, and I believe earth, but the way they interact with each other is in a way I've never seen before. Cool, well, I already knew about lightning and the wind aspect. But how does that help me right now? Well, I'd say you can become even more powerful in your bloodline if you both learn how to use it and learn to master the individual elements that compose it, thereby gaining better control as a whole. Then maybe you won't have to deal with the backlash of using your own chakra. He glanced down when he saw Naruto's leg twitch. As for your tree walking, I don't know. Maybe you just shouldn't use chakra. Naruto narrowed his eyes at Kakashi as he walked off, or rather hobbled. After Kakashi was well and gone, there was a puff of smoke as Kuromi entered her fox girl appearance. She held his leg gently and closed her eyes as he read chakra envelop the limb. Honestly, can you not be so reckless with this body? I still live in it after all. All along the lower leg there are small fractures. Well, if you'll be my nurse whenever I get hurt, then I'll stare any threat in the face without flinching. You kicked a tree out of spite and almost shattered your leg. The details aren't important. She sighed, and after a minute she set Naruto's leg down and walked to a tree, looking up at it. She scratched her head for a moment before shrugging. She closed her eyes and walked forward. She kept walking for a time. She stopped when she felt Naruto's eyes on her back. She opened her eyes and looked back to see Naruto looking up at her dumbfounded. What? What? She was standing on the trunk of the tree a good 15 meters up, looking down at him over her shoulder. How did you? She hummed and looked down at her feet connected to the tree, only to lose her traction. She squeaked as she fell back down. Naruto quickly stood up and caught her, though he was a little ginger on his injured leg. Well, that clears that up. She blushed at Naruto holding her like that before she stood on her own. Well, I am at my base a mass of chakra with a consciousness that evolved over time, so I have a godly amount of chakra. And I know how to use my body, which is chakra, intuitively. So I figured even if I'm sealed in you, how much my chakra flows out if I'm shrunk down to this size would still come out pressured. So I decided to just go on instinct. Naruto's eyes widened as he thought back at what Kakashi said. Maybe you just shouldn't use chakra. Was he giving me advice? I have a lot of chakra that's always flowing out, probably more than what people use for tree climbing, but because it's passively slipping out, it also clings to me for a time, so. Wow, I didn't think you were one, but you actually are a genius, Kuromi-chan. Before she could stop him, he moved to kiss her on the cheek, causing a blush to spread over her nose. What do you mean you didn't think I was one? She swiped at him but hit air as he had already moved towards the tree. The fur on her animal appendages bristled as the air around him went dead, and his eyes zoned out with his arms back at his sides slightly behind him. In seconds he made it the same distance as Kuromi had up the tree. He blinked and refocused. Well, that worked out great dash. He slipped and fell to the ground but managed to catch himself on the ground. The moment I think about the action of tree climbing is the moment I lose balance, huh? Oh yeah, I wasn't thinking either. Naruto looked at her dryly. I take back my genius comment. He ducked out of the way hastily as Kuromi's knee landed where his head had been, hitting the tree behind him and shattering the bark. I was joking. Wow, you guys sure are hungry. Tsunami smiled softly. Kakashi ate normally somehow. Sasuke ate fast, and even Sakura ate at a faster rate to try and regain their strength and fill their empty bellies from their training. Kakashi sat back and thought out loud. I wonder where Naruto is. Tazuna took a swig of his alcohol from his chair and glanced over at Kakashi. Was he not with you guys as well out there training? He was, but shortly after being shown what we were doing, I think he got a bit irritated, then walked off. I bet he's somewhere goofing off after having given up on tree climbing. It matches a class slacker like him. Sakura huffed as she finished eating. Oh really? A chill went up her spine at the voice behind her as a hand gripped the back of her chair hard. Naruto's slit eyes stared from the side at her. Oh Naruto, you're back. Naruto flawlessly switched back into his light-hearted demeanor. Hey Kakashi-sensei. Thanks for the advice with my training, it helped a lot. What advice? You know when you said to not use the words died in his throat as he thought about it again, and his face shadowed as he glared at Kakashi. The jounin sweated as he held up his hands. Ma, calm down now Naruto, it was just to egg your determination. He wanted to punch Kakashi but decided not to for now. I don't even know why you all bother, you're gonna all die anyway. The group looked over at Inari, Tsunami's son. Naruto chuckled, waving it off. Hey, you worry too much, kid. Besides, we are all going to die eventually anyway, so no point worrying about when it's going to happen. Go on and die then. Gato has an army, there is no way you can stop him. And I'm the ultimate weapon, or deterrent depending on the situation. An army really doesn't mean a whole lot to me. That's very egotistical. Naruto could practically hear the thoughts of his teammates, but chose not to look at them. Naruto's lax demeanor only served to infuriate Inari more, however. Is this some kind of game to you? You probably had such a spoiled life to be able to think like that you don't know what it's like to suffer. Oh, I don't? Tsunami was about to step in and reprimand her son for his rudeness, only for everyone to stop as Naruto gained an edge in his voice. Though his carefree body language stayed the same, you could see the hardness in his eyes. Naruto walked over to a picture on the wall and stood in front of it. It was a picture of the house's family but with one person torn out of it. Naruto stood there for a long pause, not saying anything until finally he looked back at Inari with a small smile. You lost someone important to you, didn't you? Maybe even a father. The family, especially Inari, all flinched visibly. Naruto saw it and kept his soft smile. You're a good kid, Inari. You've been through a lot, and you don't want others to risk their lives and go through the same pain you did. That's why you don't want us here. You feel that what we are doing is a waste, so you would rather us not die needlessly to protect you. Inari balled up his fists and looked down as he tried to hold back her tears. Tazuna and Tsunami didn't look much better off. However, the room went dry and dark as they went rigid. With his back to Inari, he continued to speak. I grew up on the streets and had to fight to live and fight to eat ever since I was probably half your age or less. I've had to grow up with the world weighing me down with a knife to my spine. I'm not going to give you some long spiel as to how or why I lived the way that I had, but you said I know nothing about suffering. His jacket hit the ground and he took off his undershirt. Most of the occupants in the room gasped as they saw his back and torso bare. Do you still think you've suffered more? Tsunami covered her mouth as she cried and Tazuna felt ill. Even Sasuke and Kakashi were surprised. The others didn't know what to feel. Along Naruto's upper body were thin scars where it looked like he had been slashed or cut into. The marks weren't patchy or anything as they were smooth and faded. But with attention now brought to them, it made them very noticeable. Naruto made his way to the door as he left the house. Sorry Tsunami-chan, I'd stay for dinner, but I'm afraid I eat a bit much when I train, so I'll find something to hunt. As he stood at the door, Kakashi called out to him. Wait, Naruto! How is your training coming along now? I can give you some tips if you want. Naruto glanced back with a bored look that surprised them and gave them a small amused smirk. Hey, I don't need your pity. I mastered that already. He left the house after that without saying another word. The house sat in an uncomfortable silence, some no longer having an appetite to eat. Tazuna set down his drink looking sober as he spoke in a tired sigh. Kakashi-san, I don't know how things work in your village, but what could the boy have possibly done to deserve such treatment? Naruto has always been an orphan, and because of that, along with certain events around him, he served as an easy scapegoat for people. Let's just say in a world so dark it's hard for me to see the truth. Naruto walked through the woods in silence. In a poof of smoke, Kuromi appeared in her fox form walking alongside him and looked at him nervously. They walked for a good 10 minutes without a word being spoken. Finally, Kuromi had to break the silence. I'm sorry. It's not enough, I know, but dash. What are you doing? He kept walking but still glanced over at her. She knew exactly how and why he got those scars, so she knew why she was apologizing. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't be tortured. Stop. You had to go through hell just to survive. Stop. You try to look happy all the time, but you have a lot of pent-up dark emotions. She turned into her yokai form as she looked down and held her arm, walking behind him. What? Stop. Yet you still want to free me, which you don't have to do. I should at least go through the pain you felt. But it still wouldn't be a suitable payment for what I've done, dash. I said fucking stop. He turned on her and yelled at her, causing her to flinch. He roughly grabbed her arm and pulled her in. Expecting to be hit, she was caught off guard again as Naruto's lips collided with her own. He hungrily kissed her as she tried to regain her bearings. His other hand made it down to the small of her back and pulled her in. She moaned into him as she tried to speak. She put her hand to his chest, trying to push him back. WYRUMMPH? Naruto silenced her again, and they fell to the ground as he pinned her. His tongue stroked against her own and the moist cavern holding said appendage. Her hands balled into fists as she shut her eyes and squirmed under him. Her eyes watered, and after a couple minutes Naruto finally backed off, letting her breathe normally. I feel so much better now. I told you already, I'd rather you not apologize for what has already happened. She was about to cry from embarrassment as she covered her red face with her hands. What's wrong with you? Please put your shirt back on. His body had scars, but it was also toned to the touch. He shook his head and laughed to himself. That's cute. I'm starting to question how people ever found you scary. She stopped shaking and moved one hand down as a slitted red eye stared at him darkly. He sweated lightly and went on with his training. Yeah, I was joking. He walked away from her and pushed his headband down over his eyes. Okay, let's do this again. He vanished from his spot and landed on the trunk of a tree several meters up to the side. He jumped off in a blur and started to bounce back and forth between trees with his sight blocked. Kuromi sat up and smiled softly, watching him go. They could see well in the dark, but it was like a sense such as sight no hardly mattered to Naruto, so nighttime training didn't slow him down at all. He started ricocheting faster and faster between trees. It was at the moment that Naruto decided to use his chakra actively that her eyes widened at what she saw and she had to shield herself. A young woman made her way through the woods alone. Looking for something in particular, she stopped when she saw a boy in the center of a clearing under a tree. He appeared to be sleeping soundly as his headband rested over his eyes. His upper body was no longer bare, but he was still decorated with dirt and scratches. The splintered wood around him and shattered trees showed that he had likely been the cause of it. The girl was strikingly beautiful with long dark hair and dark eyes and was wearing a pink kimono. Approaching the boy, she gasped when she saw his face. She crouched down and slowly, as if lost in thought, started to creep her hand towards his neck. "I wouldn't get any closer if I were you." She froze when Naruto spoke out. How did he detect me? She decided to appear disarming as Naruto sat up and took off his headband from his eyes. Yawning, he squinted as his eyes refocused to the morning light. Resting his eyes on the girl, he whistled lightly. Wow, just woke up and already greeted with the sight of a pretty girl. Today must be a good day. She gave a small smile at the compliment but internally stayed on guard. She somehow could still feel eyes piercing into her. Naruto looked up and spoke at the tree. "Calm down, Kuromi-chan, it's fine." The girl looked confused and looked up, and her eyes widened in a nervous fear, seeing a panther-sized orange fox crouched on a branch above them, growling at her as if ready to pin her down and rip her apart at any moment. She jumped down, landing next to Naruto, and locked eyes with the girl before ignoring her with a huff. Naruto petted her head as he laughed. "Ha, sorry, she's a bit of the jealous type. But I didn't introduce myself. My name is Uzumaki Naruto, pleasure to meet you." She nodded to him with a friendly smile. "Nice to meet you. My name is Haku." "Haku? That's a nice name. So tell me, what is a beauty like yourself doing out in the woods so early in the morning alone?" She blushed slightly before answering. "Well, I'm actually just collecting herbs around the area for a friend of mine." "Herbs?" "Yes, you see, a friend of mine's was injured, so I'm helping him recover. Luckily, he wasn't hurt as badly as he could have been." "What are you doing out here, if you don't mind me asking?" "Well, you probably figured out already that I'm a shinobi. I was training out here and decided to rest when I was done." "Oh, I see. So is there a reason why you're training? After all, looking at the damage around us, I would say you are strong enough." "Nah, I've set the bar high for myself. I will be the ultimate weapon, so of course I will be strong. It doesn't matter how strong or skilled I am, that still is a long path to walk." "So you have a goal, but is there any other reason? Do you not have anyone precious to you? I think for one to truly be strong, they should fight for the one that is most precious to them." "Well, I don't think that is the only way to get strong." Looked over at Kuromi and smiled to himself. "But I would say I do have at least one person important to me." "Well, anyone?" He stood and dusted himself off. "Well, nice talking to you, Haku-chan. Tell Zabuza that waiting." This put her on edge as she fingered the small needles. He started walking out of the clearly as it took a bit Haku to get what was said. Naruto whistled through the forests as he walked away. It didn't take him longer than a minute before he spoke out. "Stop." A sharp needle stopped against his neck, which was held by Haku behind him. But he wasn't talking to her. He was talking to Kuromi, who, while still in her larger fox form, had her jaws open behind Haku's neck, causing the girl to shiver nervously. Naruto turned around, not at all bothered by the needle, and looked at her bored. "Not very smart to attack me. I'm pretty sure I did nothing wrong. You know of my connection to Zabuza and that he is still alive. So you pose a threat that I must eliminate for my master." Naruto motioned with his hand and Kuromi backed off from Haku and trotted to his side but kept an eye on the girl. "My entire team knows Zabuza is still alive and that you are likely his ally. Though I'm the only one who knows your actual identity, but that's because of my senses. I'm letting you go to give Zabuza a heads up to be ready, but also because I prefer to give women a chance." She slowly lowered her weapon but kept a trained eye on him and the fox. "Don't assume my gender, I'm male dash." "Come on now, that shit again?" He sighed and glanced over at Kuromi, who looked away for a second before he focused back on Haku. "I'm sure there are all kinds of reasons to lie about your gender, but I can't be tricked. You smell like a woman, though that's not always a 100% proof to go by. But I also have a sense where I can feel every curve of your body and I can tell you're female." She blushed and tried to cover herself with her arms. "I didn't do anything perverted." She decided that for simplicity it would be best to believe him. "Fine, I will trust you and tell Zabuza that you are expecting him. So next time I'm sorry to say we will meet as enemies. She formed a hand seal and vanished in a swirl of mist. Naruto spun on his heel and walked away from the clearing with Kuromi. Just because I didn't kill you don't think that means we weren't already enemies. I tell you boy, your help means the world to me, Tazuna said to Naruto as the boy carried beams of wood across the bridge. Tazuna was short on workers and so the bridge building was taking longer than usual. Naruto volunteered to help, which Tazuna initially refused, saying that Naruto and his team was already doing enough for them. So Naruto pretty much forced his way into helping. The boy was strong enough to lift wooden beams that would take 2 to 4 grown men some work to lift, and he did it tirelessly. When Tazuna asked him why Naruto was doing this for him, the boy simply responded, "Sometimes you have to show people you're strong, especially when they think you aren't. Because when you show you're strong, you don't get pushed around." That response wasn't his answer but him giving advice to Tazuna for Gato. Naruto's words and actions served to inspire the remaining workers to stay, and some over the week's time to even come back. To the wave civilians' amazement, Naruto even used shadow clones to speed up the production. He only made around 10, but with Naruto's stamina and strength, all the workers had to do was the carpenting and the aesthetics, which made the job way easier for them and faster. Tazuna didn't want to take the young shinobi away from his training but stopped complaining when Naruto said all the work he was doing was working his muscles, so it helped him anyway. Or at least that's what he said. Really, it was just to keep Naruto's hands busy. The entire time he was also controlling his chakra discreetly. The seal is degrading nervously fast. Naruto rubbed his chin as he looked at the seal on Kuromi's cage in his mindscape. Is that bad? Kuromi wondered as she laid down in the grass away from him. For you it's not. At the way it is now you can probably use half your chakra. That's scarily fast. My chakra's natural properties is breaking down the seal. While you will be free like I promised, the seal might be decreasing faster than my body can adjust to. Sorry that it's causing you trouble. I don't worry about it, I'll figure something out, but you are getting out of here soon regardless, don't worry. She turned over to look at his back and smiled softly. You'd better keep your promise. But I'd rather you not kill yourself in the process of fulfilling said promise. Say Kuromi? Her ear perked up at him in attention. How are the other Biju's relationships with their containers? I'm not completely sure since I've been sealed for a lot of the time since Jinchuriki were known. From what I've gathered since waking up, and you other Biju for the most part have either an indifferent or angered relationship with their containers. There are a few that are more friendly with their containers. The Hachibi and its host being a prime example. Why? Just wondering what I should expect is all. I would imagine not other Jinchuriki have the relationship we have. Our situation is definitely not a common one. Though I would be careful if you do happen to meet another container. Why is that? Well, simply because you are my host, you are automatically placed at the peak of the hierarchy. You outrank other Jinchuriki, which is to be expected since your mind dash. Naruto snorted, causing Kuromi to blush as she corrected herself. My container. But that might also cause a few of the other Biju to be at odds with you. There is also the likely chance that other Jinchuriki can use their Biju's power to some degree. Well, that's good to know. Still, it would be cool to meet others like me. Naruto then went into silence as he continued to inspect the seal in her presence. She sat up and watched him for a few minutes. It would be hard for her to saw it, but she really did enjoy being around him. In only a month and a half's time her life had turned around completely, and she for once had someone outside her siblings that she could say she had some kind of bond with. The feelings she felt, though she wasn't sure what all they were, or rather didn't want to acknowledge the state of them. She fidgeted a little before letting out a breath and biting her lip. Nara container. Naruto turned to look at her, curious at being called. Ya Kuromi-chan? There he goes with the familiar addressing with her. Yet she allowed it for some reason. Well, if you want, you can use my power. You know when you are in trouble. It would be inconvenient for me if you were to die too soon after all. Nah, I'm alright. What? She went blank for a second before getting a little irritated. Do you know what an honor it is for me to allow you to dash? I didn't mean to hurt your feelings, Kuromi-chan. I just never planned on using anyone's power other than my own. I grew up with my own power, I survived through my own power. The only time I would say I used your power was when the seal kept me from dying as a child. At least I think it was the seal. Her mood instantly dropped, as was the trend whenever he mentioned the harshness of his childhood. He saw her ears droop and smiled as he turned to her. If you want to fight with me though, I guess I can use your power with the exception that you use me as well. Is that okay? She smirked and tilted her head up away from him. Humph, as if I would ever need anything from you. But okay, I accept those conditions. Naruto chuckled at her act. Cute as always. He leaned in and gave her a quick kiss on the cheek before she could react and left the mindscape vanishing as she blushed shyly. As she sat there in the grass by there, her hand subconsciously went to the thick chain around her neck. I am not cute, I'm an intimidating force of nature, Baka, she mumbled to herself. No, you're not. She jumped when Naruto's voice echoed through the mindscape, showing that while he left he was still connected to it. Will you go away? She growled as she could hear the fading of Naruto's chuckling in the sky. Naruto woke up in his bed and stretched. He had a few bandages on his arms and scattered lightly over the rest of his body from the damage his training had caused. Wasn't that big of a deal to him, though. His ear twitched when he heard the sound of metal cutting through it, accompanied by a womanly scream and dishes breaking. Naruto felt into his sensory skill and was able to feel the presence of intrudes in the house, along with the fact that his team was not in the house. Guess they left guard duty to me. Well, at least they let me sleep. He sat up and pulled the bandages from his body, as he had healed up overnight on his own. He grinned excitedly as his hair flared out slightly from his intent. Show time! They were two men who could be assumed to be bandits holding swords. The shorter of the two had a malicious smirk on his face as they dragged Tsunami out. Yeah, it sucks being the bridge builder's daughter, but you're coming with us now. Ka-chan! Tsunami's eyes widened in fear as Inari came out, gaining the sword wielder's attentions. Oh look, the brat came out for his mommy, ha ha ha. Leave my mother alone! The taller of the bandits grinned as he approached Inari, unsheathing his sword. Oh, so the snot-nosed kid thinks he can order us around, does he? Don't touch him. I'll do whatever you want, just please don't harm my child. They looked back and saw the defiance in Tsunami's eyes and laughed as they left the boy. We are definitely going to hold you to that when we get you to Gato. They took her away as Inari watched, crying. His legs shook, but he was unable to move. The images of his father and Naruto flashed in his head. He didn't want to lose anyone else. He didn't want to always suffer. There were others who suffered more than him but kept going. He may be weak, but he can make himself stronger. And it was with that thought that Inari grabbed a kitchen knife and ran at them, screaming, Let go of her! Inari, stop! The young mother's eyes were wide in horror as the swordsman turned on Inari, and she could do nothing about it. Looks like the kid decided he didn't want to live anymore. The big one swung his sword down at Inari as the boy stabbed at him. The blade cuzzed through the air fast to hit Inari before the kitchen knife could even touch him. Dom. There was a gust of wind and took a few seconds for the people there to realize what happened as a voice spoke out. Not bad, Inari. Though if you are fighting someone, I wouldn't scream out like that unless you can move faster than sound. You're one to talk. Very funny, Kuromi. He mentally spoke out to his fox dryly. Everyone looked on shock as Naruto was standing there between them, holding Inari's wrist with one hand and catching the bandit's sword between his curled index and middle finger of his other hand. Who are you? Naruto looked at the shorter man holding Tsunami boredly. A badass. Who are you? I'm all. A kitchen knife was suddenly stabbing the man through the shoulder, causing him to release her. Unimportant. Inari looked down at his hand, seeing the knife gone. The taller bandit looked at him with some fear now. What did you do? No one yet. Maybe a hot fox girl at some point. After that, who knows? Naruto nodded his head to himself and looked off into space. His seal burned for a second, but he ignored it. What? The man was confused as hell now. You know you should really get a better sword. Huh? What's wrong with the one I'm using? A shock went through Naruto's arm and he twisted his wrist, shattering the sword into fragments away from him. It's shit. The metal shards stabbed into the man's chest and face, and he fell back bleeding out. The shorter man started to scramble back for his life as he held his impaled shoulder. Naruto moved to Tsunami and untied her. The moment she was free, she clung on to his shirt, hugging him as she frantically spouted out a series of thank yous. Naruto just rubbed her back as he looked down at her son. Good job, Inari. It is because of you stalling them that your mother is still here. Who knows what would have happened if they got away. Speaking of which. Naruto looked where the other bandit was running. He blurred out of sight, and before he knew it, the man was being held up with one hand around his throat as he wet himself. Naruto got an insane gleam in his eye as he leered at the man. Now you are going to answer some questions for me. This was the wrong time to let Naruto rest. Kakashi regretted as he held Zabuza's sword off with a kunai. When they got to the bridge, Zabuza and his accomplice attacked them. It's a shame, really. I wanted to fight that kid again. That other black-haired brat seems to have gotten stronger since he was able to take care of my water clones so easily, but he is still no match for Haku. And let's face it, The pink girl is useless. Zabuza cackled as he swung his sword at Kakashi again. Zabuza was no joke as he wasn't playing around like before. Zabuza had planned this out as well. His mist wasn't just used for silent killing but also to reduce the visibility of Kakashi's Sharingan, making this much hard. Sasuke's own kunai met a Saban as he fended off the hunter. You should really give up. Since you are Naruto-kun's friend, I wouldn't want to kill you. Sasuke's eyes widened in confusion for a second before it went away. You know Naruto? Wait, it doesn't matter, I'm not his friend, and you should be the one giving up. You won't win. I see. Well, no hard feelings then. Haku brought up one hand, shocking Sasuke as she made hand seals. You can make a jutsu that way? Haku ended on a seal and 1,000 needles materialized from the water in the air. All the needles rained down on Sasuke. He smirked and a second later he vanished from the spot the needles stabbed down on to appear in the air. Sasuke threw several kunai, forcing Haku to jump back. Haku suddenly leaned to the side and a kunai went by from behind her. She looked back to see Sakura smirking at her. She realized too late that it was meant to distract and not hit, as a moment later Sasuke impacted his knee on the face of her mask. The blow sent her tumbling back. Looks like my chakra is working well. Zabuza's eyes widened as Haku was actually forced back, causing Kakashi to chuckle. Seems you underestimated my genin. Kids tend to love to prove the adults wrong. Sasuke is one of our village's most promising young fights and he's an Uchiha. Sakura, while not much right now, is incredibly book-smart and a natural tactician. So her offensive power is weak, but she still knows how to be an excellent diversion. An Uchiha? I thought they were wiped out. Sasuke is the last one we have left. Not only an Uzumaki but now an Uchiha? Haku, don't play around anymore. Yes, Zabuza. Haku stood up unharmed and made a lone hand seal. She unleashed her chakra as the air around her noticeably chilled. Sasuke looked on anxiously as the air frosted. What is this? Sasuke was surrounded by floating mirrors made of ice. To their amazement, Haku made contact with one of the mirrors and sunk into it. He shivered as he could see his breath from how low the air temperature dropped. This is my bloodline. You think you're fast? I'll show you speed. The moment Haku finished her part, Sasuke flinched as a cut appeared on his cheek. What was that? I said it was speed. This jutsu lets me move at near the speed of light. The voice echoed around him before he felt pain from all sides as he was cut up. Sasuke! Kakashi shouted and ran to help him, only to be blocked off by Zabuza. Not so fast, Kakashi. Go for Haku and I take out the bridge builder and that pink chihuahua of a student you have. Kakashi glared but forced himself to leave Sasuke and hope he could handle himself as he dealt with Zabuza. After a few minutes, Kakashi was not able to push the advantage. He was out of shape and practice from what he used to be. He knew that now, and that could cost him, especially since Zabuza hadn't been as injured by their first battle as he had been. Zabuza planned against his Sharingan, and it worked well, and yet Kakashi had neither a plan nor the reserves to counter him. Zabuza laughed out at Kakashi as he started to sweat. Ho ho ho, that boy is probably down on his luck by now, Kakashi, and pretty soon you will be next. It's a shame, really. I was hoping for that other kid to be here, but I'll find him after I drop your body in this sea. Someone call me? Both veteran shinobi's eyes widened at the shout. Sasuke's knees were weak as he was bleeding quite a bit. None of his wounds were that deep, but the pain and blood loss would get to him soon, and the lower temperature was already draining his stamina. He was able to see the blurring paths of Haku's movements, but not much else, and so was not able to really stop her. You have good eyes if you are even able to notice me, but I'm afraid I'll have to end this here. Don't stop yet, the main act has just arrived. Haku looked up from her place in the mirror at the voice, surprised. They heard the pelting of footsteps, and a second later Haku cried out as she was knocked out of her mirror as a knee strike from behind shattered it in a burst of static. Who? Everyone's eyes widened, even Sakura and Tazuna's, as Naruto dropped down into the dome of mirrors as broken ice fell down around him sparkling, and he posed with a finger to the sky. The ultimate weapon is here. Kuromi giggled in his head. You love theatrics. Naruto relaxed his posture and looked over at Sasuke, who was almost on the ground. Wow, you look like shit. Sasuke glared as he momentarily forgot his injuries. Now isn't the time, idiot. This ninja has some strange bloodline that lets her use ice and merge with it, moving at high speeds. Naruto shrugged boredly. You are saying it like it's that big of a deal, and I haven't already figured most of that out, since most of that is currently present right now. I'm assuming if you are crying about it, then your fire jutsu isn't working on the ice? It hardly does anything, and the damage it does do, she quickly repairs it. Naruto looked over at the mirror he broke only to see it suddenly reform itself. He glanced to the side as Haku got up quickly and flipped back into a mirror. Hey Haku-chan, we meet again. Naruto-kun, it's nice to see you. I don't suppose I can convince you to not fight. If you guys back off, we won't kill you. Sorry, but we have a job. Even if Gato is a terrible person, we must complete our task unless Zabuza-sama decides otherwise. That being said, I don't think you are in a case to kill anyone. Whoosh. Naruto's eye fluttered for a second as a cut appeared on his cheek. He stared at Haku another second before rubbing his cheek with his thumb, showing the cut gone. What was that, Sasuke? It's another part of her jutsu. She said it lets her move at light speed? Light speed, huh? Well then, Sasuke, you're at my back. Sasuke stood up and had his back to Naruto's. Now form a fire jutsu, I have a plan. Sasuke sucked his teeth but listened as he formed hand seals. The moment he did, there were blurs all around him as Haku grabbed his hand. Sasuke's eyes dilated as Haku pulled back a hand full of ice saban. She felt killing intent and saw Naruto move over Sasuke with his legs swinging and a blank look in his eyes. She slid back and flipped away as Naruto's foot hit the ground in front of Sasuke where Haku was cutting into it with a low boom. She panted as a second later her mask fell away, split down the middle. Naruto ran a hand through his hair and laughed out loud. I said I had a plan where you could hear it. Did you think I was stupid? I knew you would likely try to stop Sasuke from doing what I said somehow, as that was the only clear information you had to act on. Now then. Naruto moved to Sasuke and pulled a few senbon out of his back, making Sasuke yelp out. You said she could move at light speed? Well, it's good news to know that isn't true, or we would both be screwed. You could see her, couldn't you? I could see all of it this time. Naruto rose an eyebrow and whistled when he saw his eyes. Well, looks like the last Uchiha got his eyes. Sasuke's eyes widened upon hearing that as he grew excited. And my Sharingan. I'm a true Uchiha now. I can't be stopped. Naruto blinked as Sasuke fell to the ground unconscious. Well, that's just disappointing. Guess he suffered shock from the cold and the sudden surprise drain from activating his Sharingan. Well, it's just you and me now, Haku. Haku's sweat dropped when Naruto carelessly kicked Sasuke's prone form out of the dome. Haku ignored it and held up a fist full of senbons. Please reconsider, I would dislike killing you. You're underestimating me if you think I can. Haku sighed and narrowed her eyes at his response. So be it. A body moving at extreme speed zipped past Naruto, and a series of cuts appeared on his forearm. Naruto didn't even budge. She went in and out of a mirror before doing the same thing and repeated as she became a series of streaks around Naruto. Cuts and slashes appeared over Naruto and his clothes as he stood there unflinching. Tell me, Haku. What? His lack of concern and reaction to her attacks unnerved her. Why do you follow Zabuza so much? You are your own person, so you shouldn't throw your life away that easily. Zabuza saved me from my own loneliness and a lonely death. Lonely? Naruto's eyes shifted around as Haku dashed around him. Yes, you see, in the lands of water around the Mist Village there has been a purging of those with bloodlines led by the Mizuki. Anyone with bloodlines were seen as demons who didn't have a right to live. Naruto flinched at that. Haku noticed but continued. One day shortly after awakening my bloodline, my father saw me practicing with it. He gathered a mob and set out to kill me and my mother. While he did kill my mother, I managed to kill them all and escape. As I ran from town to town alone looking for scraps, as the civil war of the country had rendered local towns to poverty, I was found by Zabuza. He took me in, trained me, and gave me purpose. Even if it's simply to be his weapon, I will fulfill my duty and debt to him. Haku, you don't know how much I can relate to you. Haku stopped in her assault as she stood half out of one mirror listening to him. But your life is your own. I understand you feeling you owe Zabuza, but at this point don't throw your life away. If you have no reason to live without Zabuza, then find another reason. You said one becomes strong when they have someone to protect? Well, someone who is trying to protect someone and doesn't have any goals is just wasting their time. Sorry, Naruto-lun, but I can't stop. I'm not doing this just because I am fulfilling my obligation to Zabuza. I am doing this because I want to help him. Naruto smiled at her. Guess I was wrong. But if you hope to kill me, you're gonna need something bigger than needles. That wouldn't be hard to do. The ice needles in her hand drew in moisture and stretched into small swords. She dashed straight at, aimed for his head. I wished we could have become friends. Please don't hate me in the next life. Play NECA Heartbeat, Chase and Status Remix. Naruto gave a somber smile as Haku dashed around him progressively closer. I definitely know what it's like to be alone, and I can definitely see us being close. Zabuza is your reason for being strong? Well then you said that it is only when you have someone precious to you to protect that you can be strong. Well then Haku, what if someone who is already strong finds someone precious to them? The one precious to me either you nor Zabuza can compare to. Haku zipped behind Naruto with her ice blades held to run through his back. She felt a dark glare on her, and she froze as a chill went along her back as she backed off quickly. She panted slightly as she looked at Naruto warily. This feeling of unease, she tried her luck again and dashed at Naruto from the side. The moment she got close again, the dark presence actually warped her vision as she saw Naruto. His eye gleamed as his face was shadowed and locked with her own the moment she got close as a glowing slitted eye bore into her. She felt like an ant approaching a titan for a split second. He can follow me at this speed? You have incredible tracking if you are still able to follow me at this speed. Yeah, I have great eyes, but I rely on a sixth sense I have that lets me feel movement around me. You said you move at the speed of light? You are hardly moving at a fraction of the speed of sound, you just have great stealth. He mentally gained a nervous smile, however, as he thought. Not gonna lie though, the instant she leaves one of the mirrors her speed is much faster than I can track, but she slows down greatly after. She is probably limited by how fast she can react when she is traveling at that speed and so slows down. So you're a sensors as well? He shrugged. I guess so. Well, it won't matter if you can sense me if you can't move fast enough to stop me. She jumped back and forth, speeding up, causing Naruto to smirk. It's thanks to those mirrors that you are indeed faster than me. She shot straight forward at Naruto this time with her ice blade wielding hand pointed out at his head. I'm sorry that I have to end it like this. You are faster, but I'm pretty fast myself, and with my abilities and chakra, then even if it's for a moment. Crash. She ran into Naruto, and an instant later her weapons were shattered and she flew back. Then I can counter even someone moving at your speed. The impact caused a shockwave to ring out that cracked the ice around them, and Haku was sent flying through her own ice mirror, shattering it as she tumbled across the bridge. He struck me too, number 3 times in that exchange, yet I didn't even see them. Kakashi whistled as Zabuza, who was stuck in an exchange with him, was shocked. Naruto chuckled through the mist as he walked towards Haku's lying body. The mirrors behind them started to fall apart. I have to say your Kekei Genkai is a thing of beauty, but with my bloodline, even if it didn't outrank yours, it also has the type advantage over you. So you are gifted as well. Your bloodline is one I've never heard of before. She shakily got up on her feet as blood dripped from her mouth. As far as I know, I'm the only one with this specific bloodline. I used to think it was sound or shockwaves, but upon studying it I found out what the root of my bloodline was, and through chakra control I've made it better. It is simply the control of the movement of molecules and atoms. Vibrations, if you will. The flow of my chakra is erratic, like the excited palpitations of an irregular heartbeat. He held his hands out as he moved towards Haku. His hands went out, and the air started to distort around them rhythmically as a dull beat went out. It excites my body like a heavy pulse. He dashed at Haku without warning, surprising those watching at his top speed. Naruto was very fast for his age, but for someone like Haku who was used to high speed, she was able to react. She jumped back and threw a handful of saman at Naruto in waves. Without slowing down, he left short afterimages as he dodged the 3 waves of needles by inches. She gasped as Naruto was already on her. You are good, but you don't have the physical power to stop me. Shindoten, tie-in, pulsation release, base. Naruto's palm gained a white translucent glow as it struck the mirror, but Haku was ready as she'd put more chakra into this specific mirror than the other ones. Shatter. Naruto's palm shattered it all the same, and the shockwave traveled with pinpoint force as it hit her in her core, and she vomited a little blood and was sent tumbling. Naruto continued to walk towards her calmly as she struggled to get up. That was a great defensive use of your jutsu, but you don't have enough chakra to block me. Haku, we are on par in almost every category. The difference is I'm physically stronger, but that's not as important. My stamina, chakra levels far outmatch yours, and with the type advantage of my bloodline you will lose this, so just give up. She gave a smile that unnerved Naruto a little as she started making hand seals. I'm sorry, but I can't do that. You are strong and I may very well die here, but I won't give up either. If you don't kill me, I'll end up only killing you. A chain broke out of the ground and went around her neck, choking her, as she gagged, forcing her to drop her hand seals. The rest of the chain tore out of the ground, showing that it was a chakra chain coming out of Naruto's lower back. The chain pulled Haku towards Naruto within range. His eyes deadened as he looked right at her. I'm sorry. Naruto without another thought put his palm to Haku's cheek and a pulse went through her body as she let out a silent scream before a torrent of blood sprayed out of her mouth. The light slowly left her eyes as they closed. Was I at least of use to you, Zabuza? Did my life mean anything? She only spoke the last part, but Naruto understood it all. As she died, he held her body and slowly laid her down on the ground. He could have killed her in more gruesome and less quick ways, but out of respect for her he chose this method. It was a risk in the fact it was solely close range, but it exploded the enemy's heart and collapsed their lungs by forcing a suddenly strong pulse through the body, blowing up the veins and arteries in the chest as the air expanded outwards. Thank you for the great fight. Yet I still can't help but feel you were holding back against me even a little. Naruto, move! Naruto looked up away from Haku at the sound of Kakashi's frantic cry. He glanced behind him as he felt insane killing intent to see Zabuza spinning his giant sword above him with a demonic aura about him. It was thanks to Naruto's own instincts coupled with his sensory skills that he was able to sense Zabuza's actions. Naruto turned around as Zabuza brought the momentum of the blade down diagonally at Naruto. Naruto instinctive attacked, moving his arms at the same frenzied speed as when they met Haku. A clash issued for a second before a result was made. Blood flew as a cut opened up on Naruto from his shoulder to his hip. His arms moved fast enough to break the sword's blade up on contact with the impact of his chakra strikes. It didn't stop him from getting sliced though. Naruto winced as some of the metal shards from the blade had broken off in his body, making it harder for his wound to heal. Haku did her job, but you will pay for what you did. Naruto jumped back as Kakashi came to his aid and smirked with a slight grimace as he held his wound. So you did care for Haku? It makes me feel better knowing she didn't completely waste her life. Come on, Kakashi, I was expecting you to take care of him. Kakashi had the decency to look embarrassed as Naruto stood up straight on his own. Sorry, Naruto. He fights too well in this mist, so he got away from me. How are you doing though? Both with your kill and injury? Naruto scoffed morbidly at the question. With the kind of childhood I've had, if that was my first kill I would either have to be dead or retarded. As for the injury, well, I've had worse. Naruto looked eyes with Zabuza, seeing the man was angry at him, which wasn't surprising. Naruto only smiled at that, which angered the man more. You have my respect, Zabuza, but you are on your last legs. Kakashi may not have been able to finish you off, but you weren't going to last much longer, were you? It doesn't matter what state my body is in. To go out fighting fits someone like me. I can understand, but it's a shame, really. The way you are now, I bet even a genin with some skill can beat you. Naruto sweated lightly as that caused Zabuza's intent to spike and the demonic aura behind him to take shape. Naruto, what are you doing? Naruto raised up a hand to stop Kakashi as Zabuza held his sword out at Naruto. At a quick speed where he vanished, Zabuza made his way towards Naruto. Naruto, however, made a simple ram sign with one hand as he calmed his breathing. A split second later, Naruto recoiled as Zabuza appeared before him and struck him with his sword. It hit Naruto's neck with a clang. The blade hit the chain around Naruto's neck, protecting him, though he still felt the impact as Naruto couldn't breathe. He wheezed but didn't fall as he brought back up his hand sign. You are like a raging bull right now. If I threw myself in harm's way, you come running. Naruto's chakra became visible before it became sparks, and he pulsed it outward like a wave. Zabuza's body seized up as half his body was paralyzed on the side holding the sword. Before swordsman could back up, a giant chain stabbed him through his chest. Why, you damn Uzumaki! Naruto grinned before his slitted eyes dilated, and he felt a wave of dizziness and pain. Sha! Naruto vaguely registered the screams in his head and around him. He vaguely knew who the screams belonged to, but that wasn't what his mind was on. His mind was handling the pain of metal fragments erupting out of his body, wound, draining and feeding on his blood. Zabuza gave out a hoarse laugh at his final act. It took a bit, but my sword's hidden ability finally came through. The Kubikura Bocho is the blade that will never die. It rebuilds itself from the blood of its victims, and each broken piece retains this ability. Even those small fragments you managed to chip off that fell into your wound. You threw your life away. Ha, for a plan that might work. For a plan that wasted enough time for me to fatally injure you. You and Haku are the same. You both were just looking for a place to die. The both fell to their knees as their injuries caught up with them. Naruto's injury specifically was like the most painful form of cancer, as the metal cells just kept growing. While the little demon of the mist, done in by some brat, how pathetic. The shinobi on the bridge looked to the end of it to see the small portly man that was Gato standing there smugly with a small army of bandits behind him. Zabuza managed to muster enough strength to glare at Gato. Gato, what the hell are you doing here? Well, obviously I'm protecting my investments. You see, I have too much cemented into this country, and trusting you to handle this job was clearly a mistake, so I've decided that you are going to die here today on this bridge. Lucky me though, looks like the kid already beat me to it. The man boldly walked forward and stopped when he made it to the lone body of Haku. He looked at her face and rose an eyebrow. Oh? You are that masked kid Zabuza toted around, weren't you? If I had known you were a woman and such a fine piece at that, I would have gotten some fun out of, would have been the perfect payback for you breaking arm, you bitch. Gato had the gall to kick Haku's head. Zabuza could only glare, but Naruto was punched the bridge, cracking it with his knuckles as he pushed himself up. Do not disrespect the dead. Naruto's eyes slitted finally again as his mind ignored his injuries and pain. The irises in Naruto's eyes stayed to fade from their blues to white, making his gaze all the more intimidating as some of the bandits stepped back. Naruto gained a grin that was soaked with both instability and a malicious swayed a bit as he walked forward before stopping over Zabuza. One of his eyes turned red, showing his mind wasn't exactly right at the moment. He's Zabuza, you using that? Guess you aren't anymore, or rather you can't, huh? Mind if I take it off your hands? No? Why, thank you? Referring to his sword, Naruto grabbed the damaged weapon before Zabuza could even process a response. The chain around Naruto's neck cracked with a glowing light as Naruto's chakra flared about him with a hum. A hum similar to the staticky noise you would hear from standing under a giant pylon. Your bandits are fodder, so Gato, you are the only one I will keep alive. Fully bypassing the pain of his own injuries, Naruto vanished from sight as he shot forward. With each long stride he left a cracked impression in the bridge from where his foot made contact. A second later, a man to Gato's right was bisected. It was as if time slowed down as they all turned to the man in slow motion to see Naruto having cleaved him in half with Zabuza's sword. Naruto, bathed in blood, made the metal in his body grow more, but his own chakra also caused that metal to break off him in a weird combination as he littered the bridge with iron. However, even a pig like you will wish he was dead when you find out what joys I have in store for you. With the bloodbath that issued, the only way for the bandits to notice where he had been was the cluttering of metal scraps that fell under each bandit's mutilated and dismembered bodies. But by then it was too late, as the moment the metal fell, so did another body. In the backs of their minds they could only gruesomely wonder if Naruto did this alongside Zabuza, would his brutality be the same? Or worse? The look in Naruto's eyes betrayed him as the finely slitted pupils danced around in his irises as he watched the villagers go at it. He was sitting propped up against a small shack near the bridge with most of his body covered in blood. He grinned as the villagers tortured Gato. Naruto decimated the man's small arm like it was nothing and then dragged the portly man into town and threw him to the villagers. You can guess what happened after that. Somehow Zabuza had held on long enough to give him parting words as he dragged Gato by him. Zabuza basically told him that he knew how the world was and respected Naruto for taking care of Gato, not just for the sake of it but in reaction to the man disrespecting Haku. He whispered a few words to Naruto where only he could hear it, and after that his life left him. He would have loved to have a fair fight against Zabuza, but in the world of shinobi that was a luxury that he just wasn't able to have this time. Thanks to Kakashi and to a hardly even noticeably effort Sakura, they were able to remove the metal growths from his open wounds. That was indeed painful, as it was mostly ripping it out by hand from Naruto, much to their chagrin. Sakura couldn't help much simply because she had hardly any medical knowledge and was afraid of him, seeing as he looked like a walking serial killer. Which was ironic, since most seasoned shinobis might as well be called professional killers. The wounds from then on didn't hurt as much but stung, and was bandaged hastily so he wouldn't bleed out. That left his upper body clothed in bandages to the forearm. He got up and headed back to Tazuna's house while dragging Zabuza's sword through the ground. He thought back to the bridge and couldn't get Zabuza and Haku off his mind. They had his respect and were great shinobi living as shinobi. Kakashi was going to burn the bodies but threw about keeping the heads. At Naruto's threatening insistence, Kakashi let him bury the two. Naruto on his way back to Tazuna's passed by their braves. Haku's grave was marked with the remains of her mask and her needles. Zabuza's, however, was only marked with bandages and his headband. Naruto couldn't leave a shinobi of that level in a bare grave like that. Naruto, in a display of strength even in his fatigued and injuries body, lifted the sword up in the air with one arm and stabbed it into Zabuza's grave. This was yours anyway. I already got one gift from you, I won't be greedy. He gave his respects before putting his hands in his pockets and walking off. You idiot, did you forget I'm still using this body? Naruto winced at Kuromi's loudness as he lay down on a futon in one of Tazuna's guest rooms. Naruto set up a sound canceller so no one in the house would hear them, but they still made sure no one snuck up on them. The closest to them was Sasuke, but he was resting in one of the nearby rooms. Well, sorry for deciding to break a cursed vampiric sword off into my body, since I obviously knew it would become a metallic cancer. He yelped when Kurom poked a clawed finger into one of Naruto's wounds through the bandages. I don't appreciate your sarcasm right now. She looked at the blood she got on her finger curiously and sniffed it. There is more iron in your blood than what I would normally smell. She channeled her yokai into it, and the crimson stain on her finger turned black. Not sure if that's healthy or not. It is odd though. What is? I've been trying to heal you up for the past hour now. But it has hardly worked. That could be because I'm blocking you. What? She got loud as she looked at him like she had just been hurt, subconsciously touching the chain around her neck. He sat up and put a hand behind her head and pulled her into a one-armed hug as he propped himself up with the other one. The action made her blush as she glanced at him confused. Think of it as my punishment for allowing myself to get hurt. I can't have you healing up my recklessness too fast all the time. That will just make me more cocky and potentially come back to bite me. Before you get made, I am using the suppression aspect of my chains to block you, but I'm stopping myself from bleeding out at least. She wrapped her arms around his back and he winced when her nails dug into his back, which just happened to also catch a few of his wounds. I will forgive you because you're an idiot, but I will let you keep those wounds as punishment for your actions. What? But that doesn't make any sense. You are mad about me not letting you heal me for injuries, but you were mad at me for being injured in the first place so badly, and now you are going to punish me by not doing something that you were going to do anyway? None of this makes dash. A jolt of pain went up his back as her nails dug in a little further in warning. Normal, he would check her, but at this range in this situation he wasn't in the best shape to do so. A second later she calmed and gave him a real hug, whether she realized it or not, as she snuggled her face slightly into his shoulder. She did it so naturally that she didn't even realize she did it immediately. About what you said on the bridge earlier today. About that one person who is the most precious to you, he smiled softly as he hugged her with both his arms, holding her tighter, as if that was his way of answering her. But why? I don't care what you've done. Even if you were in control of your actions, I don't care. I wouldn't care. Who you were then and who you are now are two completely different things, and who you are right now in front of me to me is real. It's only been months, yet it might as well have been my entire life, and though that amount of time to you is short for me who has had very little, it's everything. Why I feel this way with you could call it instinct. You can hate yourself, you can hate your actions, you can feel like you don't deserve anything in life, it doesn't matter. It's not important. Because I forgive you. I forgive you. That was probably the second most important thing Naruto or anyone could have said to her. Her eyes widened before her eyes watered. She visibly cried as she hugged him. You don't even know what I'd done. I don't care. You can only say that because you don't know. You can tell me whenever you're ready, but I promise you I will be here regardless. He enjoyed the moment as she just held him tighter and cried. Please. Let me heal you. She sat back as she rubbed her eyes of their wetness. He shook his head and sighed, amused. Fine. I can't thank you all enough for what you guys did for us. Tazuna was at the finished bridge a week later with the rest of Team 7. Kakashi was reading his book but still addressed Tazuna. Don't worry about it. Things got rough, but I think my team is all the better for it. Yes, and I will make sure to send the appropriate award to your village in interest in the following week. You guys saved us from Gado and freed this village and this country. Sakura bowed respectfully while Sasuke just grunted in acknowledgement. Well, till next time. We better get going. The group went on their way, running across the bridge to head into the trees. Naruto held back and nodded to Tazuna's family and the villagers. He still had a few bandages on his body where he was sensitive. The small fox was back around his neck, however, and seemed to be snuggling a bit closer than usual. You alright, boy? I'm fine. Nothing I can't handle. Inari, followed by his mother, walked up to Naruto. The boy was a little tearful as he spoke to Naruto. Did you really have to go back already, Nisan? Naruto's eyebrow quirked mirthfully at that but ruffled the boy's head, causing him to shut his eyes. I have to, Inari, it's kind of my job. He glanced over at Tsunami, who looked like she was about to say something. He was surprised when she leaned forward and gave him a quick peck on the lips. Tazuna's jaw dropped while the villagers made various murmurs about their hero. Bibi, but he's so much younger than you. She ignored her father while Inari finally opened his eyes and looked up at them confused. She coyly put a finger to her lips, pouting them a little as she looked at Naruto. If ever you're in the area or need a place to stay, you know where I am. Don't you mean us? She once again ignored her father. Naruto just nodded his head a little nervously, causing her to smile a little more as she caught it. He turned on his heel slightly faster than normal and ran off. He grumbled as he had a slight blush on his face. Damn it, she caught me off guard. What did you do? He could feel killing intent from Kuromi as he conveniently stared ahead of him at the trees so as to not look at her on his shoulder. Nothing. I mean, sure, I wouldn't have minded hitting that. I mean, all I did was help her around the house. She stared at him for a second before lying back down around his neck, oddly silent. You took that easily. You're reading my memories, aren't you? I have no idea what you're talking about. At their travel speed now, without a civilian slowing them down, they reached their village by the next day. So your team was able to come out fine from AC turn a ranked mission? I question your judgment with sending a fresh team through all that, but it looks like you came out alright this time. Let's not make it a habit though, Kakashi. The old Hokage took a puff of his pipe as he spoke to his jonin a little sternly. Kakashi just laughed nervously while scratching the back of his head. Sakura simply glared at their teacher from behind. Well, good work regardless. You all will be rewarded the pay of an A-ranked mission. You all were successful and had to fight some powerful shinobi. Also, our partnership with Wave now may also be a boon to our economy, what with their bridge opening up trade and the monopoly being lifted on their country. How are you feeling, Naruto-kun? I heard about you being injured. Naruto shrugged. I'm fine. I've always been a fast healer after all. Sarutobi eyed him for a second before accepting it. If the boy was fine and looked fine, then there was probably no need for concern. Well, I'm sure you all are tired from your mission. That'll be all for today. As they left the room with Naruto waving to him goodbye, the Hokage spoke out to himself. Danzo, how is Naruto developing? Danzo came out of the shadows as Sarutobi looked out the window. The boy is developing fast. When he was under my care, he requested that I not train him in shinobi arts. So all I did was train the boy's instincts while he studied chakra control exercises and did his own physical training. The boy has only been a genin for hardly more than a couple of months, and yet as soon as he had a mission where his skills were put to the test, he figured out how to feel out, at least to some degree, the nature of his chakras. And the saying knowing his power is definitely proven true with the boy. Kakashi has hardly taught him anything, but the little bit Naruto learns he runs with it. You speak highly of Naruto-kun's abilities. It also seems your routine are as great at intel as ever. Sarutobi eyed him as he glanced back. Danzo appeared to not have noticed. It is only thanks to you that they can operate now so freely. It should be noted, however, that he has a knack for knowing when he's being watched. The weathered Hokage nodded as he started to ponder thoughts on Naruto and the village's future. Week later. Naruto stared at the ceiling blankly as he kept his breathing even. Not that I mind all that much really, but I am a growing guy, you know. What you're doing can complicate things. Kuromi was laying on his chest, snuggling in apparently as he slept. She stirred and sat up, making him twitch at where her soft rear pushed down on him. At least she was wearing clothes, kind of. One of his shirts was definitely his kind of cliché. If it were a different time, he would question why she was even wearing his clothes if she can create her own. Complicate what? I'm always with you anyway, with inside you or on your shoulder as a fox, so how is this any different? His eyes narrowed at her as she tilted her head at him, confused. I'm not sure if you're really that innocent and oblivious, or if you are messing with me. I thought you didn't have a problem with me and now you can't touch me? I don't understand you humans. Were you lying to me about forgiving me? That has nothing to do with. He stopped as her ears drooped. He sighed and pulled her down into him and held her. Fine, I'll just ignore your complaints then. She didn't fight his embrace this time as she laid pressed against him, and they enjoyed the morning. I guess getting the Danzo's lackeys to build you your own room was pointless. It was his gift to Kuromi that he had built while they were gone at Wave. It was a simple room, but the bed had red and black silk sheets, and was of a higher quality than his own. She loved the bed, but ever since they got back from Wave she had been kind of clingy. You can sleep there with me if you want. Naruto kissed her forehead, making her blush lightly. If that's what you want, my queen. It's nice to hear you say that. She grinned as she pushed back a little and gained a mischievous glint in her eyes. Would you like to do that thing again? What thing? She grew bashful again and couldn't make eye contact with him as she fumbled with her words. Why, you know that thing you people do with your mouths. Oh? He smirked, and before she could say anything else he put a hand behind her head and brought her down to mash her lips against his as she squeaked in surprise. It instantly became a heavy makeout as Naruto made the intensity, as such that Kuromi tried to struggle to move back, but Naruto kept her head in place, and her squirming only spurred him on. He stabbed and swirled his tongue around in her mouth. She made short moans as her eyes glared back before finally blood ran out her nose. A little bit later Naruto was stretching his arms and glancing amused at Kuromi, who was laying on her side on his bed in fetal position with her tail wrapped around her, and her hands uncovering her face as she whimpered. Why, you're cruel. You shouldn't have encouraged me then. Besides, seeing as you got so excited you gained a nosebleed, I'd say you liked it too. I may have acted a little naive, but you could have let me have my fun. Her voice was small as she was too embarrassed to look at him. And deprive myself of this moment? If you acted less cute or looked less hot, then maybe.